I have often said, maybe even with the redundancy to a fault, that the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is the most weather-dependent facility in the world. In other words, on a sunny, beautiful day, there is nowhere that's better to be than out at IMS in May, when it's beautiful and sunny and no humidity and, the whole deal. But when it's cloudy and rainy and cold and spitting and all that stuff, there's nowhere worse to be. It's the most depressing place ever. It's so frustrating. And I think that I have determined that actually is like the perfect summation just for me in general, because I've got to be the most weather-dependent person on the planet. My mood and my outlook and everything is very dependent upon. I don't think I'm alone in this. I don't get seasonal depression per se, but when it is like this outside, it literally is like you just want to literally step outside and like hug the entire atmosphere because it's just perfect out. And it is perfect today, and it is a Friday, as Eddie just played, for the fact that we're getting ready for the weekend, and, I'm ready to go. Now, I do believe, Eddie, and admittedly, I'm getting in here very late, and I'm throwing you a massive curveball here that's going to be a challenge, and my brain just remembered this. But I think even though the storyline absolutely, without question, beyond doubt, is the fact that the Pacers have an opportunity today to go up 3-0 on the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is a massive, massive game tonight at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. And we're going to cover it from all angles. But it's also the month of May. And if I'm not mistaken, Eddie, you and I both had kind of flippantly said, and I don't know if this is because we didn't get a chance to discuss really a lot before today because I've been running around crazy, so that's not on you. That's 100% on me. But I think that we said each Friday in May we would do for Bounce Backs famous calls of the Indy 500, right?
We did mention that, yes, we did.
Do we still have any remaining that have been unused, or do we just recycle?
We have plenty, Jake. We have plenty.
So we can do that today, right?
Yeah, your good friend Mike Thompson helping us out, just with me helping with Beyond the Bricks the last couple of years. I've been able to save some of the clips and some of the famous calls. So we can go all the way back to the 1940s if you'd like.
Outstanding. Okay, so we will try to do exactly that over the course of today. All right, good afternoon to you. My name is Jake Query. That is the voice of Eddie Garrison. It is Query & Company here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan on this Friday, and we're going to talk about Pacers Cavs, and we're going to talk about it a lot. I do think, and I know that I say this a lot, and maybe I'm the master of hyperbole, and maybe I overinflate things. I don't know. You tell me, Eddie, if you agree with this sentiment or if you think it is way too over the top, okay?
I'm all ears.
On a 1 to 10 scale, like, for example, when I make a statement of believability, we're going to rate the believability on a 1 to 10 scale.
Okay.
If I said to you, for example, Friday is the day that follows Thursday, on a 1 to 10 scale, the believability is?
0. I'm just kidding, 10.
Correct. If I said to you, the Oklahoma City Thunder have a high-flying offense that is capable of scoring over 110 points per game, you would put that believability at?
10.
Okay. So let me give you a statement, and then you tell me the 1 to 10 believability. The winner of tonight's game between the Indiana Pacers and the Cleveland Cavaliers, Game 3 of the Eastern Conference semifinals at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, with the Pacers leading the series 2-0. The winner of tonight's game will win the series.
I will go 6.5.
I think everybody, I've already run into two people just out in public today. I mean, I've been running around all morning, that the Pacer conversation comes up. And both of them said the same thing. Both of them said, If Cleveland wins tonight, I could see them coming in here and winning 2 games. And that is very concerning. And I don't disagree with it. Theoretically, huge advantage for the Pacers because they have to win the series. They simply need to win 2 games. And they have 3 left at home. But if they lose tonight, I'm not saying they're going to, but if Cleveland is able to steal one tonight, then all of a sudden, even though the Pacers are up 2-1, you kind of shift the pressure a little bit here, right? And they go into game 4, and it does become must-win situation. Because the last thing you want is to go back to Cleveland tied 2 games apiece. You've got to win on the road in order to win the series again, and you've got to win on the road to avoid going down 3 straight games to Cleveland, and then everything changes. So tonight, just avoid all of that. If the Pacers win tonight, theoretically, it's over. And you've got to wonder if the Pacers win tonight, if Cleveland doesn't think of it as theoretically over. Now, the other thing is the MASH unit and looking at the latest in terms of the injury and availability for Cleveland. And I think, and I get it. I mean, players are going to do everything they can to try to get into the game and get out there, and we don't really have any more. You correct me if I'm wrong, Eddie, but I don't think necessarily that we have any more information than the following of what I'm about to say, okay? Darius Garland. Now, we're going to do the 1 to 10 scale again.
Are we doing we're doing 1 to 10? We're not doing the right, wrong crickets?
We're doing 1 to 10 on this scenario.
Okay.
I'm going to name for you the player, and for those that are passerby listeners of the program or those whose radio is broken and they can't change it away from the fact that they were listening to something overnight on this radio station and they didn't mean to be listening to today, but they thought, well, I will. And they're not totally dialed into the Pacers-Cavs series. I'm going to mention a player, and then on a 1 to 10 scale, 10 being the most, 1 being the least, I want you to tell me their level of importance to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Darius Garland.
Are we going to do the same exercise, by the way, with Danny Cunningham of Locked On Cavs in 38 minutes when he joins us? Okay. Darius Garland on a 1 to 10 scale, I will go 5. I think he's legit 50-50.
No. Listen again. The level of importance to the Cavs.
Oh, sorry.
Darius Garland.
Playing. 8.
Hard to disagree with that, especially with the way Donovan Mitchell is playing. But the reality is that Garland is you throw him out there, and it's another weapon that's very difficult to contend with. We could go a little bit based on the discussion we had with the Milwaukee Bucks. With the Bucks, when Giannis was doing Giannis things down the stretch, there was some sentiment to the fact that having Damian Lillard on the floor might have been advantage opponent because of the fact that it took the ball out of Giannis's hands. And when Giannis had the ball, good things primarily were happening. Certainly that is the case with Donovan Mitchell, who has been spectacular. Granted, they lost both games, but he has been a handful for the Pacers. We now know that he has a calf strain.
A minor calf strain that he has been playing through, yeah.
And he is not on the injury report, even with that, says that he is 100%. But Darius Garland is listed right now as questionable. Evan Mobley, 1 to 10 scale of importance. Eddie Garrison, go.
10.
Totally agree. Their best defender and a very underrated offensive player. A guy that can shoot the three. He is capable of a 35-point night at any given time. He is also an outstanding defender, and even though Pascal Siakam has not been vintage Pascal Siakam, having Mobley out there almost assures that it's going to be even longer before you get vintage Pascal Siakam, who's a very important player for the Pacers. He is also listed as questionable. Now, the injury for Garland, the big piggy, the one that, not the one that went wee all the way home, the one that went to market. The big toe for Darius Garland is essentially strained, okay? A sprained left big toe that happened in the first round. Evan Mobley has a sprained left ankle. And that's a beast, but you can at least with a sprained ankle, seemingly, you can play through that a little bit if it's wrapped the right way, but your mobility is tough. DeAndre Hunter with a sprained right thumb. Now, that means two things. Number one, he can't hitchhike back to Cleveland. Number two, that's, I believe, on his shooting hand, the right thumb. So it's his shooting hand. And, you're standing there and the ball's coming at you and you're trying to get a grip on it. That's a tough thing to do. But all three of them did go through reps yesterday for Cleveland. But the latest that we know as of right now, at this time, shortly after noon on game day, some 6.5 hours before things really get underway, they are listed as questionable. So that's where we stand right now. Now, as for the Pacers, and this has been their calling card so far here down the stretch, and that is, for the most part, pretty healthy. You got to love it when the only person that's on your injury report is a guy that was, you hate that anybody's on there, but when you get an injury report and you're like, oh, gosh, the Pacers have somebody out, and they're like, yeah, it's Isaiah Jackson, who has been out the whole year. The thing that fascinates me, and I'm a broken record with it, I realize, but the thing that fascinates me is the fact that almost serendipitously, it was not necessarily by intention, but almost serendipitously, we stumbled upon a storyline because it was before the playoffs began, Eddie, if you remember, a couple of different interviews that we did, and I was asking about if Rick Carlisle would stave the temptation, as most teams do in the NBA, to shorten the rotation. And if the Pacers would find their advantage being big rotation and fresh bodies all the time. And I think that's exactly what they're doing by design. If you don't have a huge drop-off, what do I say in the NFL draft? During the NFL draft, I say it every year. If you're going into the NFL draft and you are a team that is in desperate need of we'll say, tight end, and you're looking at it and you say, okay, the tight end in the first round, we think we can get one that's a 9.5. But in the second round, the tight ends that we believe will be available at our pick are a 9.0. Drop off, 0.5. At the cornerback position, the corner, if you're a team that needs that, you look at and you say, the corner that we can get is a 9.5. The corner we would get in round number 2 is a 7.7. Drop off 1.8. Therefore, you would go with corner over tight end. Or even if you said 9.0. So the tight end might be the better player in round 1, but the drop off is greater. So you've got to go ahead and get the product that is, obviously has the greater drop off there in that area. For the Pacers, it's entirely possible that they look at it and they say, look, our drop-off, yes, we can tighten our rotation because there's more time, more rest. But our drop-off, when we go, for most teams, they start seeing a drop-off of 1.5 or 2 points per player once you get into player number 8 or 9. For the Pacers, that's into player number 11 or 12. So if you have consistency in terms of always having people fresh out there, do it. If Rick Carlisle called you, Eddie, and said, I've got to start shortening my rotation, so I need you to tell me which guy that's been getting minutes is the one that kind of gets squeezed out of here. Who's the one you pick?
Well, first I'm answering and be like, why are you asking me this question? I'm just, some schmuck who produces your games on the radio and
right.
Talks with Jake Coury from noon to 3 on a Dog and Pony show. I would probably lean towards Thomas Bryant.
Correct. I would agree with that.
And Ben Shepherd.
Shepherd is interesting. They've got to get Shepherd going, right? Actually, Ben Shepherd, if we could just get a little bit of livestock to join the Dog and Pony here, then Ben Shepherd would be a good guy to have around just to keep things in order, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Just stand at the door with a little cane, make sure everybody's in line, right?
Yeah.
But Shepherd is interesting because, obviously defensively you like him a lot. And he is a heady player. The thing about Ben Shepherd that I like is Ben Shepherd feels like an NFL offensive lineman. The less you say his name, the better he's doing. He's just kind of out there, right? From the outside. But I think if you really watch it, what his role is, it's pretty important because he is a spot defender. But it used to be, Eddie, and this is what This is what, to me, is frustrating is the wrong word, intriguing, enigmatic. What's enigmatic about him is he used to be not a by design three-point shooter, but a guy certainly that if the ball rotated over and he's on the three-point line, you were perfectly comfortable with him shooting it.
I mean, you're comfortable with him shooting it, but right now I don't think I want him shooting it.
Do you remember what you did on Valentine's Day?
No.
Do you remember Valentine's Day?
No.
Did we make mention on the show of Valentine's Day?
We did.
So you remember that vicinity, right? It probably, I'm going to guess that during Valentine's Day, we either were, I don't remember the dates of the Super Bowl, but either just getting ready for it or just coming off of the Super Bowl, correct?
Yes.
You remember the Super Bowl this year?
Yeah.
It was the Chiefs got blown out of the building, right?
By the Eagles.
By the Eagles,
Yep.
right? The game was over. It was like 46-0 in the first half, right?
Felt like it, yeah.
Does that feel like a long time ago to you?
Yeah.
It does to me as well. That's the last time I think Ben Shepherd hit a three, right?
Yeah.
He has really struggled with his three-point shot. We'll see if it goes tonight, right? What's going on with Bill Belichick? Can you school me on this? Eddie, you're a young and hipster with the kids. What's going on with Bill Belichick?
What do you want to know, Jake? Here's the thing. What do you want to know?
So he's got this hot girlfriend, right?
Sure.
That, like, should be his granddaughter, right?
Sure.
And now she's been banned from North Carolina football. Is that right?
What? I hadn't seen this. No, I had not seen this.
And I have no idea how reputably this stuff is getting reported, right? You never know on the social media. The University of North Carolina issued a statement today saying Bill Belichick's girlfriend is a welcome guest at football facilities after reports claimed she had been banned by the school from being around the football program. She's a 24-year-old, and all of this came to light when Belichick was doing it. We haven't discussed this a lot because obviously it's Indianapolis radio, but Belichick is obviously, you know, a key figure within football, but also in Indianapolis. So Belichick has this girlfriend. He's doing an interview with CBS where he's asked how he met her. And as he's about to interview it, she's like sitting off to the side, and she pipes in and is like, don't answer that, don't go there. And then I think that was compounded by the fact, and this part to me is a little bit weird. The part to me that's a little bit weird is when people who know Belichick well have come out and said that they're worried about him and that they feel like that he is he whipped? Is that basically what we're coming down to here? Is that what's happening? Is that what's going on? Nobody is claiming that he is losing his faculties, right? Just
There's a lot of speculation on what she is, Jake. I'll leave it at that.
You mean that they might not have met on the Tinder, but like more on the, not on the up and up? Is that what you're saying?
I would say, remember where Bill Belichick worked in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Think of the owner and then try to connect the dots a little bit there.
Like Kraft macaroni and cheese type stuff?
No.
Oh, yeah, okay. So we're going with more the my glutes are tight?
Yes.
Okay. I forgot about Robert Kraft, and so we think there is that the speculation there?
So there's a lot of things that are speculative that she's an escort, and
Right.
that's what she is, and she's not really like this girlfriend. She's like a paid girlfriend essentially, and that's why she's immediately like shutting him down on anything that he can say publicly about how they met.
So you're telling me every time that this girl's making an appearance with him, there's speculation that all of that is under like an hourly wage?
No, like she's being paid to be his girlfriend.
That's what I mean.
Like to do the whole bit, like live together
All the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and that's why people are. But I saw that today that apparently she was being bit. Now the other thing is, you would think it's very awkward or uncomfortable with someone his age, and then he's got players that he's recruiting and coaching that are basically the contemporaries of his girlfriend.
Well, what if she's the recruiting pitch, Jake?
I mean, that's also, listen.
Do we need to get
No, I hear you.
I wonder if he consulted with Patino about this.
Okay. It's fascinating. Now, I will say that I don't know Bill Belichick, and I know that he comes off as the gruff, just stale, outdated, unlikable, almost hateable type coach. but I've always heard from people that are around him regularly and those that have worked with him that he is actually, and I'm not saying in today, let me rephrase that. I'm not speaking about right now. I'm talking about in his prime years in New England, that he apparently was like really a good dude and just a dude's dude, and was really smart about taking pressure off of his team by being this, crabby guy that then stole the headlines away from what was going on with his team. And so he became the face of being the enemy. And in that regard, okay. But for that reason, and because what do we do in America? When people are at the top and they get to the top level, we love to find any reason to tear them down. And in this case, he has absolutely given plenty of eyebrow-raising fodder for people to be like, what in the world is going on? What's going on? Speedway today.
By the way, there was a
Yes,
statement issued by North Carolina Athletics. Jordan Hudson is not an employee at the University of Carolina Athletics. She is welcome to Carolina football facilities. Jordan will continue to manage all activities related to Coach Belichick's personal brand outside of his responsibilities for Carolina football and the university.
So she's organizing his calendar.
Amongst other things,
She's
yes.
a receptionist, is what you're getting at, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay.
A
So
personal assistant.
Right. That's what it says, right? She's a personal assistant, but not
personal assistant, Jake.
but not an employee of the University of North Carolina, right?
That is accurate, yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Speedway today, practice underway, Sancio Grand Prix. Race is tomorrow. Qualifying will be later today. Have not gotten a report. We'll keep you up to date on what takes place there. It is always strange to go, and I understand it, and I like it, and it is a full point sanctioned race on the schedule, but it takes getting used to the very first time on this day that I walk out to pit road and I walk up and you see a car pulling away and it's going north as opposed to south on the main straight on pit road. It always takes me a second to adjust to that. And then, of course, they go and take the right-handed turn and they go through the road course, which is an F1 graded road course, goes without saying since F1 ran there. And it's a great event. It's a great venue. It's a great way to start the run to the Indianapolis 500. Having said that, obviously, once the race is over on Saturday, then everyone's mind flips to the Indy 500. And speaking of the Indy 500, Scott McLaughlin, who's a really likable guy, great personality, last year's pole sitter, recent U.S. citizen. Scott McLaughlin, yesterday in the press conference, said he admitted to the fact that he is a lifelong New York Knicks fan. That is well noted. We've talked about that with him on the show. And he made note of the fact that it appears as though the Pacers and Knicks are racers and pacers on a potential collision course towards the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, that's me knocking on wood because there's still a lot of basketball left to be played against the Cavs, and I am in no way, shape, or form writing them off after the Pacers got out to a 2-love lead. Having that said, if his prophecy is correct, here is what he said. Eddie, I'd like you to tell me how you think this will go over. Scott McLaughlin said yesterday in the press conference, if I win the Indy 500, and he said, and I'm going to call my shot now, I'm going to win the 500, and then that night I'm going to go to the Pacers-Knicks game at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. I'm going to buy 2 front-row seats, and I'm going to sit right in the front row with the Borg Warner right next to me and drink milk the whole time in a New York Knicks shirt. Now, I got to admit, people will be livid over that because of the shirt, but that is a strong flex, man. A strong flex. And hopefully people would see it for what it's worth and live with the fact that he is a fun personality who's having fun with that exact thought. Having fun with it. All right, you said we're going to go to Cleveland coming up just about 20 minutes from now, correct?
That is an accurate statement.
Okay, and we will be joined by?
Danny Cunningham of Locked On Cavs.
All right, Danny Cunningham, Locked On Cavs. Speaking of Locked On Cavs, there is one Cav whose calf appears to be locking up from time to time. We'll get more into that on the other side.
It is going to be a Penske sweep. Castroneves is first, DeFerrin is second. For the final call, the voice of the 500, Mike King.
It's not a tour de force, it's a tour de Penske. Helio Castroneves leads the final 51 laps and wins the 85th Indianapolis 500-mile race. His teammate Joe DeFerrin is second. He's going to get out on the front straight. Let's see what happens with the 68.
I think he's going to climb
the fence. He is out of the car, and Helio Castroneves climbs the fence in the front straight. This has become his trademark of sorts.
Spider-Man.
Nicely played, Eddie. That would be 2001. Cristaneri throwing it to Mike King for the call of Helio Castroneves' first of what would become 4 and potentially still counting Indianapolis 500-mile race victories. We will play for you on each rejoiner today a different clip from a different 500 over the course of time, because next weekend, this time a week from today, it will be Fast Friday. We are hoping, keeping our fingers crossed, that the weather holds. And I don't know if you know this or not, Eddie. Have you been to San Diego, California?
I have.
The weather outside right now, if you go outside, this is what it's like in San Diego 363 days a year.
Word?
How great would that be?
Word.
Little bit of a coastal breeze. Feel a little slight hint of the salt water in the air. But other than that, just absolutely like chef's kiss perfect, right? We mentioned tonight for Cleveland something that, and we are going to get more lowdown on this, as the kids say, coming up here in just about 10 minutes from now. But it is interesting that Donovan Mitchell, now, was it Donovan Mitchell himself, Eddie, that came out to say that he has a calf strain, or is this something that Kenny Atkinson or somebody else for the Cavs mentioned, and then Donovan Mitchell said, yeah, but I've had that for a while? Because for him to go for 48 in a game with a calf strain, and look, he didn't look, whether we're talking about the dunk down the middle or we're talking about the first step, he certainly doesn't look like a guy that is gingerly favoring anything. But even with that, I don't know how much he's being limited, obviously, in what he wants to do, because he certainly looks like somebody that can go wherever he wants. The bigger thing for Cleveland that I'm curious about is Darius Garland, who I think is a wonderful player and a very good facilitator for them. But if Darius Garland is on the floor, and we'll ask Danny Cunningham from Locked On Cavs this coming up just about 10 minutes from now, if Darius Garland is on the floor, does that take away and negatively impact Donovan Mitchell because he's not able to get the ball and you want the ball going to Mitchell? Is Mitchell scoring at this level because Mitchell is capable at all times of doing that, or is it more so because somebody's got to score because 3 of their 4 leading scorers are out?
I think it's out of necessity, Jake, and I think adding Darius Garland's only going to help Donovan Mitchell, because look at how he's at the end of the game, each of the last 2 games, like at the end of game 2 and out of game 3, he was exhausted. Like, he looked absolutely fatigued and worn out. This is a guy that was averaging, 31 minutes a game during the course of the regular season, and now he's playing upwards of 38 minutes against the Pacers because of all the injuries they have. And that was one of the things that made Cleveland so good during the regular season, was the fact that Mitchell wasn't playing 35, 36 minutes a night like he once was. Instead, he's playing 30 to 32. He's much more fresh. He's much more effective, and he's much more efficient as a player and as a scorer. And it's allowing other players to develop and other players to get involved to help space the floor and make things kind of like with the Pacers, Jake, where it's just kind of an even flow of distribution for the Cavs offense. And so missing Darius Garland, I think, is hurting them in that regard, but I also think it's hurting them in the regard of being able to get back on defense, just because of how quick the Pacers want to move the ball, how quick they want to get up and down the floor, and not having a guy like Darius Garland who can kind of match the tempo and keep up with the Pacers is a big, big loss for them.
Look, all the chanting about Tyrese Halliburton being overrated, and again, I'm going to go back to, let me tell you the 2 things I want to hear tonight from Gainbridge Fieldhouse fans. Number 1, I want to hear on the regular chanting that Tyrese Halliburton's overrated. If Halliburton's getting ready to go to the free throw line, not while he's shooting, but Halliburton drives the lane, gets fouled, he's about to shoot free throws, he kind of does that thing where, maybe he's looking at his wrist a little bit, especially his left one. the fans at Gamebridge, overrated, doing it as a tribute to the fact that he clearly is not overrated, and also to motivate him. He's going to know you don't mean it. He's at home. He's going to know what you're doing. He's going to have fun with it. Let's go, right? And Aaron Neesmith. You think about great love stories in the West Side Story. Sonny and Cher for the majority of their time. Romeo and Juliet. Now, not all these had positive endings, but nonetheless, great love stories. Query and Company and Aaron Neesmith. Eddie, I'm just going to rope you into this. This is a radio show. We love Aaron Neesmith.
Yes, we do.
He is underrated, baby.
We
He's
love the answers.
He is the most That's exactly correct. Andrew Nemhard, Aaron Neesmith, A.N. and Sirs, right? See, you don't want to admit this, Eddie, but deep down you went home to yourself that day and said, that answers thing Query came up with, now that's got legs, right? Isn't that what you said? Huh?
Yeah, that's exactly what I said, Jake. Word for word.
Aaron Neesmith is underrated. He is the most underrated player in the NBA, and he's the most underpaid player in the NBA. Absurd to say because he makes $11 million a year. That's unbelievable money. But by NBA terms, that is very middle of the pack. He is not a middle of the pack guy. He's a separate from the pack guy. You want a team that's middle pack? You want to be Orlando? You want to be
Sacramento?
Middle of the pack team. Aaron Neesmith comes in. He separates from the pack.
Atlanta.
Atlanta's a good one. Aaron Neesmith's the guy that puts you over the top because he does every single little thing. Underrated player. Love him. And I want to hear Chance tonight. Now, we tried. We really tried on this show to get people to learn. And, Eddie, this was your idea. I thought it was a really good one. When Giannis was at the line, we really tried to get people to flip to count from 10 to 1 instead of 1 to 10 to accelerate it. Because when you're hearing 3, 2, you're oh, gosh, I got to get this going, right?
Yeah.
And we tried. We really tried, and yet everybody kept going with and I don't know if you noticed, but the counting they did for Giannis, it kind of got quieter as the series went on. Like, people got tired of it. Like, they're never going to blow the whistle here. Why are we doing this?
Well, that and the fact that, the Pacers were just dominating the Bucks.
I mean, for that last game, though, they were down 20 at one point, right?
That's true.
But yes, you're right. Now, but I want to hear tonight. This is how I will know whether or not people listen to this program. By my count, 118 people listening to this show, 19 of them female. By my count. Okay? So that there's at least, of the 118 people listening to this show, and we're going aggressive here, if 10% listening go to the game, 12 people. There's going to be 12 people at the game tonight listening to the show. I want 12 people chanting underrated for Aaron Neesmith. Underrated. Anytime. All the time.
Should be doing it for Tyrese as well and not the overrated part. I think that overrated for Tyrese would negatively affect him.
No.
I think it would.
No. He's going to know that it's the fans giving love, making mockery of the fact that people feel that he's overrated.
Yeah, I don't know, Jake. Athletes are sensitive sometimes about that kind of stuff.
Well, it didn't bother him on the road.
Well, because it's different. You're on the road. Like, you're expecting the other team to run with it, not your home.
He's going to know exactly
crowd.
what it is. He's a smart cookie. He's going to know exactly what it is. Danny Cunningham is with Locked On Cavs, and he's going to be locked on with us next.
Tracy has made the pass. He's gotten around Castro Neves.
Paul Tracy will take the yellow flag. It looks like he will win the Indianapolis 500 as the yellow and white are displayed. Paul Tracy made the pass on the north end, and let's wait and see. According to race control, the pass will not stick. So the twin checkers will wave along with the yellow. The 86th Indianapolis 500-mile race belongs to Elio Castro Neves, 2 in a row for Elio at the Speedway.
2002, Mike King on the call as Elio Castroneves and Paul Tracy, and that would obviously go for quite some time before it would be declared officially that Castroneves was the winner. The appeal was not appealable for Paul Tracy. The caution came out due to an incident involving Laurent Redon and Buddy Lazier in turn number 2 back in 2002. It is not 2, but 3. Game 3 tonight, Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Joining us now in the program, Danny Cunningham from Locked On Cavs, who probably is thoroughly confused as to why he just heard a racing highlight. But it is the month of May in Indianapolis. Danny, appreciate the time. Chamber of Commerce weather for you. Question is, everybody's in a good mood because it's the month of May in Indianapolis. Does Cleveland now have something up their sleeve to spoil the mood for everybody heading into the weekend to get themselves game number 3?
I mean, we will see. I think they are certainly feeling better about the availability of the 3 key players in Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and DeAndre Hunter that were not available in Game 2. Of course, Garland hasn't played since Game 2 of the Cavs' first-round series against the Miami Heat. All 3 guys were present and partaking in post-shoot-around activities at Gamebrich Fieldhouse earlier this morning. I think there's a lot of optimism that all 3 of them will play. How effective they will be, I think is another story, but I think that there is a lot of optimism that the Cavs will be at least fully available, let's say, for tonight's game.
Okay, of those 3, Danny, which of the 3, and I'm talking DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, probably a 2-horse race on this question, which of those 3 is most critical to what Cleveland wants to do?
So I think it needs to be Darius Garland, and he is the one that I have the most questions about what he's going to look like, just because I think that his injury is the most severe of that group, because I think that the thing the Pacers have done exceptionally well so far in this series is I think they've put a lot of, at least on the defensive end of the floor, we could talk about what they've done offensively that's worked out, but defensively, what they've done exceptionally well is put a lot of pressure on the basketball, and they have done a great job of limiting the quality of three-point looks that the Cavs have gotten, and the Cavs have hurt themselves by missing a lot of the really good looks that they have generated, but the Pacers have done a good job of that. I think Garland being available and being healthy and being just, the all-star version of Darius Garland, I do think makes that much, much easier for the Cavs to handle. I don't think it's as easy for the Pacers to be able to put pressure on the perimeter when both Garland and Mitchell are out there. Obviously, Darius is a fantastic three-point shooter, something the Cavs very much need in this series. So I think he's the answer. I can understand the Mobley thought too, but I really think that with the style of this series, and in Game 1, when Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley were out there together, was for 18 minutes, and the Pacers won those 18 minutes by 20 points. I think that this is a one big man series, and I thought Jarrett Allen, until he kind of ran out of gas in Game 2, was really, really good. I just don't know that. I think that the overlap there between Allen and Mobley is something that might be a little bit maybe mitigated because of the playing style, where I think the Cavs need the overlap in the backcourt with Garland and Mitchell.
Danny, when you look at Cleveland through the first 2 games, and obviously, the personnel is going to be the easy answer here, okay? But aside from personnel, in terms of schematics and just what they're doing on the floor, what adjustments are there for Kenny Atkinson to make that can give Cleveland a different look? Is there another look that the Cavs have shown over the course of their 60-plus wins that they have not been able to get into in terms of style in this series?
This is going to be a really lame answer, but I think the answer to that is they just need to make shots. And I do think, have kind of the ball's gotten a little bit sticky, which part of that is Garland's not out there. He's obviously a really good passer, really good distributor, kind of makes the offense flow. But in the first 2 games of this series, the Cavs are shooting 25% on wide open three-pointers and also 25% on three-pointers that are merely open. And during the regular season, they made those shots at a 40% rate. Like, they're just not going to win when they're shooting the good looks that they do generate. And again, the Pacers, I think, have done a really good job of limiting how many of those looks they've been able to create. But if they're not going to make those shots at least near the same rate they did during the regular season, it's going to be really difficult for them to find success. I think that is the one thing that I would point to. I know it's not some schematic adjustment, and I do think that the Cavs feel better about the style of basketball they played in Game 2 as opposed to Game 1 in terms of kind of dictating the pace of the game, which I thought Indiana did a masterful job of in Game 1. So I think they feel good about those things. I sort of think for them it's a matter of they need the guys that are really good shooters to be really good shooters again.
You know, Danny, I'll tell you something that to me is missing in this series. It's been, from an Indiana standpoint, it's been a great series so far, right?
Sure.
And I understand certainly, and I don't think people around here, if you really put truth serum in people, I think there are plenty of people that are like, hey, don't go celebrating here because Cleveland could easily come in here and win 2 of them because they're that good. You don't win that many games, without being that good. Having said that, and you tell me if you disagree, you're on the other side of it, Danny Cunningham, covering it for Locked On Cavs. It feels to me like the one thing that this series lacks so far is chippiness. Like they're almost, it's almost like Atkinson has called out the officials, but at the same time gone out of his way to be like, but we like Indiana. I mean, don't get me wrong, like they're nice guys. It's not what they're doing. They're just allowed to get away with more. And we haven't had, coming off the Pacers-Bucks series, the level of just bad boy, bad behavior stuff. It seems like these are 2 franchises and even fan bases that do have some respect for one another. Is that a statement that would be shared in Cleveland?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. There has not been bad blood, I don't think, between these 2 teams. Even with, Benedict Mathurin standing over DeAndre Hunter in Game 1 after he blocked his shot, I think that is a situation that could have been escalated and wasn't. And, part of that is the Cavs are, and Darius Garland said this a couple of years ago after there was an on-court altercation between them and the Memphis Grizzlies when somebody asked him, how do you describe this group of Cavs? He said, we're some nice young men. And he's not wrong. There are a lot of good guys in that locker room. There's not somebody, at least that is in the rotation, because I think somebody like a Tristan Thompson does serve this purpose, but he's not getting regular rotation minutes. Like if he's in the game, that means something either went really, really well and the Cavs are up big, or something is not going very well and they need him to do something. So they don't necessarily have that enforcer on the floor. Now, they've played well enough to where that doesn't matter with, you don't win 64 games by accident. You
Right.
don't need to necessarily be super tough to do that. They're good enough to win without necessarily needing to be the toughest team in the world. They don't have somebody that is, I think, maybe eager to mix it up would be the right way to describe Bobby Portis, as we saw in the Bucks-Pacers series last round, which I know you guys had quite a bit of experience with in those 5 games. I don't think it's necessarily a detriment, but I don't sense that there's a lot of bad blood. I think, if anything, the Cavs are probably a little bit more frustrated with themselves
Are
than
they
they are with
battle-tested
anything
enough?
the Pacers have done.
Because they've been so good and they've had so many big streaks, is this foreign territory for them?
No, because they've been through it. This is not their first year together. If this would be like just a newly assembled team, I would absolutely think so. But they've had playoff failures. They lost to the New York Knicks in 5 games 2 years ago, and they had to go through the entire offseason being called a soft team. And then last year, they lose to the Boston Celtics after going 7 games with an Orlando team that, frankly, was not good enough to push them 7 games, but the Cavs couldn't find a way to win on the road. They've been through these types of battles before. So I do think that just because they maybe haven't been battle-tested with a lot of adversity this regular season, I think there are instances you can point to, like the win they had in Boston where they were down by 23 points in the first 5 minutes and came back to win on the road. Like, that certainly counts. But I don't think that you need to go on like a long losing streak and come out on the other side of it to feel as if you've been through the gauntlet before, because this isn't a team that is just new together this year. They've been together for 3 years now.
Danny Cunningham joining us, Locked On Cavs. Before we let you go, Danny, here's what we're going to do, okay? We're going to do what these 2 franchises have not yet done in this series, okay? And that is, I'm not going to say we're going to create bad blood, but we're going to try, okay? I'm going to tell you the stereotype about Cleveland, albeit I find it unfair. But I'm going to trash talk Cleveland real quick, and then I want you to tell me what the average Clevelander would say about Indianapolis that makes Indy lame, okay? For Cleveland, I would say this. Mistake by the lake, and you had a river that once caught on fire and a total disaster. for Indianapolis, what makes Indianapolis lame? What's the thing that you would knock about Indy?
I think people would say that the only things here are a racetrack and Caitlin Clark.
All right, fair. Fair enough. I mean, listen, I will say, for what it's worth, it is a city that has won a Super Bowl as within the last, century. And in addition to that,
what's the Super Bowl? I'm not familiar with the concept.
Yeah, I was going to say, we have not gone through, here's the thing, Danny, I was going to say we've not gone through 38 starting quarterbacks in 4 years, but we're on our way, right? So I can't say that.
Yeah, did you appreciate Andrew Luck when you had him? Because it is tough in the wilderness. Let me tell you that.
Yeah, listen, Indianapolis is doing a nice job of following that Cleveland blueprint now, right? Like Spurgeon win, bring it on.
Jacoby Brissett?
Oh yeah, we have that in common, right? That's our common ground, Jacoby Brissett, right?
Exactly. We can bond over Jacoby.
Kelly Holcomb. I think we also experienced the Kelly Holcomb experience, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
exactly.
There's a little bit there.
Oh,
Joe Flacco, for crying out loud, right?
He's back, baby.
I know. All right. Well, hey, listen, we appreciate it. Spend a lot of your money here, but in all honesty, it's been a good series. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens tonight. It is possible that tonight's winner wins the series. We shall see what happens. But, Danny, as it goes on, look forward to having you on again if we could.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, Danny Cunningham, Locked On Cavs. Pretty good line. Racetrack and Caitlin Clark. Kind of hard to argue that, right?
Kind of indicative of where the Colts are at right now, Jake, if you ask me, right?
It is. No, that is a very good point, Eddie. Speaking of that racetrack, we'll let you know a couple of surprises that just happened at 16th and Georgetown.
Juan Montoya, no problem for him. Problem for Jimmy Vasser. Montoya goes by him like he's sitting still. They're headed toward Bob Levy.
Yep, and the lead is lengthening. It is Montoya pulling away from Jimmy Vasser, his teammate. They both stay out. Vasser stays out, but the lead is growing for Montoya. Boy, all of a sudden, Juan Montoya found the switch, and he has checked out, at least it would seem at this point. With 20 laps remaining, Juan Montoya is back in front, and he has apparently riding a car that is just perfect. He may be a rookie, but he is for real. Flashbulbs capture the finish as Juan Montoya wins the 84th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race.
It's how it sounded back in the year 2000 when Juan Montoya, who would later be known as Juan Pablo Montoya, captured his rookie Indianapolis 500. He actually led 167 laps that day. And I have told this story before. And yes, we will talk plenty about Pacers Cavs over the course of today, but also it is the month of May. I'll tell you a quick two things about Juan Montoya. Actually, a couple of things about Juan Montoya because it is the month of May. Montoya in that rookie year in 2000, of course, he had been a dynamic rookie with Cart in 1999, and then he comes with Chip Ganassi. This is during the height of the split. And there was a lot of discussion about Montoya, who was, I'm not going to say an unknown when Chip Ganassi discovered him, but to a great extent he was. And in terms of if you are not a fan of racing, I totally understand it. But Juan Montoya as a race car driver was, Eddie, give me a name that you can think of that from the second they were in their professional sport, they were dominant. Whether it be a quarterback, a basketball player, like from the get-go, just a level of savant where it's like, oh my gosh, there was no acclimation period. I guess Andrew Luck. Would you say Andrew Luck?
Yeah.
You know,
I thought about Bryce Harper, too, a little bit in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, that's
recently.
a good one. That's a good one.
Juan Soto.
Right away, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Montoya was discovered by Mike Hull, Chip Ganassi, and they took him down to Homestead, which is an oval in South Florida, and he'd never really been on an oval before. And they took him out there, and I think it was Jimmy Vasser that was driving for Ganassi at the time, and they had Vasser go out and do what they call a shakedown of the car. So Jimmy Vasser goes out and brings the car in, and they said, what's the top speed? Like, what comfortably will this car do? And I can't remember the dimensions or the speed. The number 208 is popping off the top of my head, but I could be totally wrong. But for whatever the speed was, Vasser came in and said, look, this car would comfortably do this before it will get, kind of shady. And then after that, I don't know. So they sent Montoya out and said, look, you've never really been in an oval. You've been in race cars, obviously, but you've never really been in an oval. So just go out and do a couple of laps and just see how this feels. And he went out, and by like the fifth lap, he exceeded the speed that Vasser had predicted. And they're thinking, wait a minute. So that was in his rookie year. He runs in kart. He wins, I think it was 7 races as a rookie. Then he comes to Indianapolis for the first time. And when you go through rookie orientation and rookie practice at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, you have to undergo a series of tests that you do a certain number of laps under 150 miles an hour, then a certain number of laps between 150 and 200, a certain number of laps like between 200 and 210, and then they turn you loose. So Montoya comes out. Al Unser Sr. was one of the overseers at that time that inspects when you're going out through this process. And Montoya goes out, and they said, don't exceed 150 or whatever it was, and he exceeds it, and he's going too fast. And they bring him in, and Al Unser said, look, you're a rookie. You need to learn these cars. You're going too fast. And Montoya said, well, I'm a race car driver. That's what I do. And they said, yeah, but everybody thinks that. So they went to Rick Mears and said, Rick, we've got this guy that we think is really good. And Rick Mears, 4-time winner of the 500, said, there are a lot of guys that are really good, but I'm telling you right now, I've been around this place a long time. And one thing I figured out, and I've never revealed the secret to anybody, but one thing I figured out is there is one area of the racetrack where you gain your speed. And I have only seen 3 drivers, other than myself, I've only seen 3 drivers who have figured that out. And I'm not going to tell you where it is, but I can tell to the eye whether or not a driver has mastered that area of the track. The next day, so Montoya goes out, finishes his thing, gets it wide open, does his practice sessions, comes back, and they walk up to Rick Mears, who was with a rival team, mind you, and Rick Mears walked up to Ganassi and Mike Holt in the group and said, "Okay, there are 4 now. He's that good." So when he first came to the Speedway, and then we will get back into what is the modern stuff, I promise. When Montoya first came to the Speedway, though, before that rookie test, all of that I just told you in Indianapolis with Rick Mears took place 2 months after he had come to Indianapolis to do a seat fitting with Ganassi on the Northwest side in March on a snowy day. He had downtime while the seat formation was being molded. And so he said, "Isn't the race here, the Speedway here?" And they said, "Yes." So he went over to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, did Juan Montoya, and he bought a ticket, and he went around on the bus. And he took a lap around the bus, a lap around the Speedway on the bus. There was nobody else there because it was a cold, snowy day, ice-covered in Indianapolis. And Montoya, at the completion of it, said, "Since there's no one else here, can you do another lap? Can we do one more lap?" And the driver said, "Okay," the bus driver. And Montoya said, "But can you drive more in the middle of the track?" Montoya then crouched down near where the driver was, spoke broken English, watched as the bus went around, and at the end of it, the driver, when he brought him back after his 2 laps, not one, said, "I notice you have an accent. Where are you from?" And he said, "I'm from Columbia." And he said, "Oh, so what are you doing in Indianapolis?" And he said, "Well, I'm a race car driver, and I wanted to get to know the track because I'm going to win the Indianapolis 500, which is exactly what he did in leading 167 laps 3 months later.
Not once, but twice.
Is correct. And he also had the largest gap between between wins at Indianapolis. So, there are guys like A.J. Foyt, there are guys that have had gaps that are, 16-year gaps between like win 1 and win 4. But in terms of win 1 to win 2, he had the largest gap because 2000 to 2015. But as naturally as duck to water at that place as any driver in the history of the event. Alex Palou is very similar to that. He has been obviously very, very good, especially this year. He is dominating. He has a 60-point lead in the IndyCar Series. Practice
60?
number 1, what's that?
60?
6-0, yep. Practice number 1 is complete for the Sancio Grand Prix on the road course at IMS, and Alex Palou is the fastest in the practice session, followed by, and then it gets interesting, some surprises here. Kiffin Simpson, who is a teammate of Palou's, and his dad owns the entire Cayman Islands. Not all of them, but a lot. Louis Foster, a rookie, is third fastest, followed by Santino Ferrucci, who's a fan favorite and a favorite of this radio station. Nolan Siegel, youngster for Arrow McLaren, was the fifth fastest. Christian Lundgaard, sixth. Pato O'Ward, Kyle Kirkwood, Alexander Rossi, and Colton Herta rounding out the top 10. Other notables in practice today: Graham Rahal was 12th, Scott Dixon 14th, Marcus Ericsson is 15th, Connor Daly was the 17th fastest, Scott McLaughlin 20th, Joseph Newgarden 22nd fastest, as Penske still looks to try to find some speed and some footing out at the Speedway.
Is this Penske struggling to start the year, Jake, or is this just everyone is pretty much on a level playing field right now and there's that many good drivers?
That's an excellent question. I think it's a little of both. I certainly think that in terms of, I will tell you this, Eddie, the things have changed a little bit with the hybrid system. Now, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, what that means is the hybrid system is, last year they had the hybrid, but not at the beginning of the year, not at every circuit. So the hybrid system is exactly that. It is a system that allows for the car to run in instances like restarts and whatever else off a battery, and then also through a normal combustion engine. So that hybrid system adds significant weight to the car, which throws off the balance of the car. Some teams have better adapted to that than others. It would appear as though Penske so far, in terms of their qualifying setup for these races, has not mastered how to find the main speed consistently, because they have struggled in qualifying more so. So you would say, Eddie, that it's kind of par for the course for everybody, except for that team as a whole has struggled on numerous occasions in terms of qualifying. Now, they've been better in race performance through strategy and coming up with different ways, fast pit stops, etc. Will Power, notably, and McLaughlin have been really good in that area. Palou is just right now he is just in a zone. I mean, Alex Palou is right now for racing what Steph Curry was in his runs for the Warriors, or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been, or Nikola Jokic is right now in the NBA, just locked in and on a different level. Whether or not that translates to the 500 remains to be seen. There are those others that are going to be right there in the thick of it. But clearly, and I understand it, I totally understand, I respect the fact that it is more of a niche sport, and when the Pacers and Cavs are in the playoffs, it is one that the vast majority of fans want to hear NBA talk, and I get that, and want to discuss the NBA. But I also think, especially next week when we're at the Speedway and you can hear the cars running and everything else, there are those that are really, really into it that want to know what's going on. And then I think that I try, at least, I hope I don't misfire on this, but as somebody who's around it all the time, I try to understand the esoteric nature of it and make it relatable and translatable for those that are not fans of the sport itself, just to give you an idea of what's going on in terms that don't talk over the head of somebody that doesn't want to be talked over the head of. You know what I mean? Because there's nothing that drives me crazier than when you meet somebody and you ask them a question about what they do and they start talking in like the native lingo, and you're like, yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I know we're primarily looking at the GP with it being this weekend, Jake, but after this weekend, obviously our focus will shift entirely to the Indianapolis 500. So I know we've got a ton of entries. What's that looking at this year? I know that it's typically a field of 33. Are we going to have an actual bump day?
Yes, there will be. There are right now 34 entered, so there's going to be one that does not make it in.
Okay.
And that is, now, Eddie, here's the thing.
I have a follow-up to that here in a second.
Okay, that's assuming that everybody is able to make a qualifying attempt. If somebody has, you hope this isn't the case. If there's an incident where someone gets a concussion or medically is not able to go, and there is not a backup driver to go in for that car, or the team decides not to replace them, then you're down to 33 again.
How many full-time drivers are in the field this year in terms of entries or entrants, and how many one-offs? Yeah.
Very good question. I think, and I'm going off the top of my head, I believe it's 27 full-time entrants, and then 7 like one-offs.
So you're looking at what? Not Takuma Sato being one of the one-offs, right?
You know what? I've got it right here. I'd have to look at the Sato would be one of them for sure. Yes. Sato, Ryan Hunter-Ray, Elio. Elio's another one.
Uh-huh. Jack Harvey, is he an
Jack
entrant?
Harvey is entered. That is correct.
3.
Hold on. Eventually, we're gonna have to get. Okay, so I said Hunter-Ray, right?
Yep.
Kyle Larson.
Oh, that's right.
Obviously, Kyle Larson, who's got a really good chance of winning it. By the way.
You think so?
Yeah, I do. You mentioned Harvey. Oh, Marco Andretti.
Oh, Marco. Can't forget about him.
So, there's got to be somebody else we're missing. But, yes, that's the
we're missing 2, right? That was 5?
Yeah, people are probably yelling at their radio. They're like, hey, moron, you're missing this guy or that guy. But that's a really good question on who the others are. I have to have an entire list in front of me, which I don't right now, obviously. But 27 full-time are the entrants. Also happening today, before we get back into the Pacers, a high school classmate of mine, and just a really good guy, been friends with him forever. And when I mention, like, being, we all have people that you're proud of, right? Mario Garcia, that I went to school with, grew up with, now the Honorable Mario Garcia, he is, for the Southern District of Indiana, United States District Court, he is a federal magistrate judge. I hope I'm saying that correctly. But he is overseeing today the naturalization ceremony at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for 34 new citizens of the United States of America. He will swear in what usually is 33. They normally do 33 new citizens, but this year he said they made an exception to add one to 34 as a team crew member will also, for one of the teams, become a citizen. So Mario is swearing in 34 new citizens of the United States of America at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and we congratulate and I guess welcome is the wrong word because many of them have lived here, but congratulations to all of them.
Jacob Abel.
Jacob Abel's full-time, though.
He is?
Yes.
I didn't realize he was full-time with Dale Coyne.
He's a rookie. He's a full-time rookie.
Good for him.
Who else do you have?
Devlin DiFrancesco?
Full-time.
He's back. I didn't know if he was back.
Yeah, he's
full-time.
back, yes. We're bound and determined to get this list, right?
Is Malukas full-time with Foyt?
He is.
Okay.
Okay, I'm looking right here.
Stingray Rob?
Stingray Rob's full-time. Ed Carpenter.
Oh, come on. Wow.
How did you forget Ed Carpenter? Come on, Eddie.
Ed might be listening. He might be texting you later, or if he listens on the podcast.
He's probably listening right now to the radio of Christian Rasmussen or Alexander Rossi, right? Working them as the owner. But, yes, he does listen to the program. There've got to be, I'm looking here. You mentioned Harvey, right? Anyway, I'll get the full list, and we'll figure it out and let everybody know here in a second. So if you're just joining us, we just talked about the Cavs and the Pacers. Bottom line is this. What we know is that Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and as well DeAndre Hunter are listed as questionable for tonight. I'm going to go on record right now and say I believe that two of these three play. I think Mobley and Garland both make it to the floor tonight. I would be stunned if that was not the case. But that's – you have to, though. The Pacers have the mentality, both as an organization and I think the roster as well, that, yes, as fans you look at it and you say to yourself, man, the possibilities here. But I do think that the reality is you want to go against the best. You want to be able to say you beat the best. I mean, last year, it was great what the Pacers did. Last year, it was great. But didn't it feel like people still didn't give them enough credit?
No, everyone was saying, well, look who they faced and look who they were missing.
That's what I mean.
Milwaukee, no Dame, and then you have the Knicks. Brunson goes down.
I mean, so you want to go against and knock out the best, right? And so I want to see them. But man, it does give you having said that, if they're not able to go, you got to get tonight. You've got to go. I flunked algebra 7 times.
Only 7?
Yes, but I've looked at the math very heavily. And by the way, my buddy Michael Ware, lead singer of The Elect, best local band in Indianapolis, points out, he said we did say all 7.
Yeah, we did.
We got all 7 covered.
Yep. Andretti, Larson, Hunter Ray, Harvey, Carpenter, Castroneves, Sato.
Okay. So we got them all? Yeah, we did. Okay. Now,
glad someone can keep count for us.
That's 7. That's the best math we can do. If you look at the math, if the Pacers win tonight, I don't want to be that guy that, hot take guy that freezing cold takes and somebody comes back. But mathematically speaking, historically speaking, if the Pacers go up 3-0 with 2 games left at home, for all intent and purposes, it's over. It's very hard to think that Cleveland would come back and win 4 straight against them if 2 of them are in Indianapolis. But stranger things have happened. If Cleveland wins tonight, which, how many times have we seen that? A lot. Where a team comes back and you feel like you've got a chance at home to really make a statement, and the visiting team comes in and everything goes flat. And if you go out tonight, if you're the Pacers, and you step foot on that floor, and you are anything other than the antithesis of what we saw for the first quarter in Game 2, they go out tonight, the Pacers do, and let Cleveland jump all over them again, like Milwaukee did in their last game here. You're playing with fire. Can you really come storming back? I know they have depth. I know they wear teams down. Can you really come storming back for yet another time? If you let Cleveland in and you let them come in and steal this game, now all of a sudden it's 2-1, and that's where the math gets tricky. Because, yes, you win Game 4, let's say, and you're up 3-1, you feel pretty good, but you got to go back to Cleveland. You lose that, it's 3-2. Then you come back home for a Game 6. And the pressure's kind of on you. Because you look up and you're like, man, we got to close it out at home. And holy cow, like we're down 8 in the third. And you tighten up a little bit because you know, oh, man. I mean, we saw it in 95. Oh, we had a game 6 at home, and we got to go back on the road again. We already did it twice. You want us to go win on the road again? I thought for sure doing it twice was enough. Don't put us in that position. We can't let that happen. And now you're tightened. So you avoid all of it, and you just say, let's go tonight. Let's just get out there, and let's get after it, and let's go up 3-0. But easier said than done because it's a darn good team as Cleveland. And I think what you're going to see tonight, I could be wrong, but I think what you're going to see tonight is you're going to see a team tonight in Cleveland that is going to come in, and they're not going to be able to ride Donovan Mitchell like that. They're just not. They're not going to be able to get 48 out of Mitchell with a strained calf and just keep riding that. And they're going to try to move the ball around, and you got to hope that if their shots don't fall and the Pacers go up 3-0, and if they're up 3-0, Eddie, it's over. Turn out the lights, baby. Play slick. If the Pacers go up 3-0 tonight, mathematically speaking, you got to say it's over, right?
And get the Kenny Smith, it's over, ladies and gentlemen, ready?
Is he going to say the Cavaliers, right? Jake, quit talking about Cleveland winning. You're putting that energy out there. No, I'm just saying, realistically, this is a team that won 64 games. It's a tough out. One more time.
Cavaliers.
That's the shoulder, right? The shoulder bone?
Yeah, right here.
I went skiing once, and I actually, I don't know if you know this, I fractured my clavalier, right?
Really?
Yeah. Very painful.
To put a bow on the segment here, this is from my dad. Hypothetical question / scenario for Jake. Lap 199. Alexander Rossi and Ed Carpenter. They're running 1-2. Who's winning?
Without knowing which one he is inferring would be leading, the winner is going to be the one that's running second going into turn number 3. That's your answer.
I think the hypothetical would Ed
Understood.
demand the pass as the owner.
No. The one that has the best chance to win, when they put the helmet on, they are not teammates. Yes, you're not going to want to take each other out, but there would not be a team order. It's a very good question. It's a fascinating scenario. But for those that are unfamiliar, Alexander Rossi won the 2016 Indy 500 as a rookie. Ed Carpenter, of course, a fan favorite, a local guy. His family used to own the Speedway, has been a multiple pole sitter, has never won the race. And if Carpenter and he owns Alexander Rossi's car. I mean, Alexander Rossi drives for ECR, Ed Carpenter Racing. If they were 1-2, I do believe this. I think now with these cars and the drivers that have figured out these cars, because they're running the same chassis they've been running now for a while, and so I think and those are about to change, by the way, but I think the drivers have an understanding of the aerodynamics of these cars. I think this year with the hybrid system kind of weighing the cars down, it is difficult to pass. So I think you're going to see drivers set one another up and not want to be the front car going into the last lap, because if you make the move in 3 and you get past like Newgarden did last year over Pato, then you have enough swing, inertia, and momentum to get speed to separate yourself going into 4, and the person behind you doesn't have time to make it up. But if you're coming down the backstretch along that long straightaway, you can slingshot your way around with enough built-up speed to hold on for the win. So I think we are going to again see a pass for the win happening in either turn 1 or turn 3, and I think it's most likely 3. So whichever of those two is trailing the other is the one that would feel much better about themselves at that point than probably they would each be feeling about themselves in the short shoot between 3 and 4. But I don't think there would be a team order. Outstanding question. Excellent question. Now, don't rule out Christian Rasmussen also on that team. He could be up there as well, but Rossi's going to be fast, man. Those cars for Ed Carpenter are fast, and Rossi is fearless, and that can be tough for certain. We're going to go back to Cleveland again in about 45, right?
No, we're not going to Cleveland.
We're not going to Cleveland?
No.
I thought
We've
we were
already
going
gone
back
to Cleveland.
Oh, we're going to Bristol, aren't we?
We've already done our deep dive on the Cleveland Cavaliers.
You know what we did?
sorry.
Matter of fact.
Sorry, the Cleveland
Cavaliers.
That's right. You know what that means? That means actually we did a deep dish on it, right?
Yeah.
That means somebody can get themselves a Chicago's Pizza. Chicago's Pizza has 18 Central Indiana locations, and we got a gift card for you. If you are right now, what number would you like to do, Eddie?
Tonight's game 3, so we'll go with caller 3.
Caller number 3 at 239-1070 is going to get a gift card for Chicago's Pizza, and that is fabulous because you can get delivery or pickup from any of their 18 Central Indiana locations. Or if you're driving around statewide because you're traveling around and you are just visiting small towns, there's 25 of them throughout the course of the state of Indiana. And Chicago's Pizza, listen, there's so much to love about it, and I am thrilled to be able to tell you folks about Chicago's Pizza on the regular because it's a family-owned business started in 1979 right here in Indianapolis. Yes, technically their pizza style is Detroit style. Yes, deep dish, you think of Chicago, and the name is Chicago's, but the heritage is Indianapolis through and through because a family-owned business, the vast majority of their locations, the owners in locations started working in the restaurant, worked their way up into ownership and bought in because they wanted part of that family atmosphere feel. And pizza that is made fresh every day, fresh dough right there, top quality cheese, tomato, and a wide array of styles of pizza. Whether you want the deep dish, traditional, the thin and crispy, they also have a gluten-free option. You always have the traditional and the deep dish and the pizza buffet for lunch along with a salad bar, and each location committed towards the community that they serve. Lots of reasons to love Chicago pizza, the biggest, of course, being the pizza is fabulous. 239-1070, caller number 3, you're on your way with a gift card.
Scott Dixon has just ruined his chances to win this race.
Our second rookie is out of the race, Scott Dixon. And what he did is just a rookie mistake. Absolutely. He was just not being careful enough, warming his tires up. He was weaving. Came down and hit the inside wall. But you know what? Jill DeFerrin, he is loving life right now. Bring on more yellows, the better.
That's exactly
you know what I mean?
right.
Because
the more, the merrier.
It doesn't matter how you win the Indy 500. As long as you win it, just bring them on.
Out of 4, 1 turn to go. It will be 3 straight for Roger Penske, but not 3 straight for Castroneves.
For the second time in 3 years, Team Penske goes 1-2. This time it's Jill DeFerrin winning the 87th Indianapolis 500-mile race.
It's hard to describe in words what I'm feeling right now. It's such an unbelievable moment for me. You know, you always dream of winning a race like this and say something smart, but I'm afraid words escaping right now. It's just unbelievable. And
that is the late, unfortunately, great Gilles de Ferran and the 2003 Indianapolis 500-mile race. Eddie is making this very easy, just going chronologically in order, right?
I've got a method to the madness, Jake.
You're going to throw me a curveball suddenly and spit out some Peter DiPaolo 1925 next?
No. No.
So I thought it was interesting when we talked with Danny Cunningham from Locked On Cavs about the city of Indianapolis. I don't know if you folks caught this, but we don't happen to have that audio, do we, Eddie? It was just about a little under an hour ago. But Cleveland as a city, you know, one of the fun things about these rivalries and matchups, most of the teams in the Eastern Conference, the Pacers have history, bad blood history, right? They don't like the Knicks for the obvious. You don't like the Pistons for the really obvious. Kind of don't like the Celtics because they've been that last rung that they've had to get over on a number of occasions. The Chuck Person years, certainly last year. Don't like the Heat because they were store-bought. The Cavs are one that, the Cavs once knocked the Pacers out. There was Solomon Hill got a ton of money based on a playoff series that took place with the Cavs. But it doesn't seem like there's this bad blood. So when we were talking, and these two teams almost feel that way, like Kenny Atkinson is willing to come out there and say, this game's too official and the Pacers are fouling a lot. But they're nice guys and they're not doing it with malice, and I'm not mad about it. There's like this protection almost where neither team really wants to offend the other. Maybe that changes tonight. Maybe things get hostile. But you don't have Bobby Portis crazy eyes running around. You don't have a Ben Wallace shoving people. There aren't necessarily unlikable characters on either roster. And so I asked Danny, listen, I'll take my shot here at like trying to get, a little city drama between the two. Cleveland is a town that has been the butt of many a joke. Now, do you know about the balloon deal they had once?
No.
I think it was in Cleveland. I'm pretty sure this happened in Cleveland. Cleveland one year decided that they were going to set this record for like most balloons ever launched in one spot. This is back before like environmental stuff. Mid to late 80s. Look this up, Cleveland balloon launch. So these people in Cleveland decide, this is almost like WKRP in Cincinnati with the turkey drop. These people in Cleveland decide, we're just going to launch like, 50,000 balloons into the sky at one time, and we're going to set a Guinness Book of World Record for most balloons launched. And the whole city shows up, and everybody's excited about it. And then as Cleveland does, it was like drafting a quarterback. They couldn't get out of their own way, right? The city of Cleveland has to do this balloon launch that's going to be, look like a kaleidoscope of the sky, and everybody's going to be talking about it. And the fact that their river once had so much toxic stuff in it that it caught on fire is everybody's going to forget about that, and they're going to forget about John Elway driving down and beating them in the drive, and they're going to forget about the fact that they had they took Brandon Whedon in a draft because they forgot they were on the clock, all that stuff, right? Cleveland was going to erase all of the bad mojo about the city by becoming the balloon capital of the world with this incredible balloon display, and they launched like 50,000 balloons into the air, and as soon as they got, literally the second they got in the air, this huge gust of wind from Lake Erie came and spun the entire air around in the city of Cleveland, and all these balloons started bouncing into people, and they couldn't get them off the ground, and it stopped traffic, and the roads got congested, and all the balloons flew like 5 feet and then landed in either the river of Cleveland or in Lake Erie, and it was this huge public disaster, public relation nightmare, not to mention the environmental aspect of it. They were pulling balloons out of the water for 17 years, as I understand it. Now, did you
the
find
airport had to shut down half the runway.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking.
Yeah, I know. They had balloons flying all over the
1.5
place.
million balloons.
How many was it?
1.5 million.
Yeah, 1.5 million. Like, what city thinks it's a good idea? You know what we should do is just launch 1.5 million balloons. So they decided to do that, and that was a disaster because most things that happen in Cleveland is a disaster. Okay, so Cleveland decides that they're going to do this deal, and that goes haywire and everything else. Now they have a basketball team that's really good. Obviously, they won a title with LeBron and Kyrie Irving, but I wanted to stoke up some sort of bad blood between the two cities. I'm being very facetious and tongue-in-cheek here. But I asked Danny his thoughts. I said, all right, Danny, give us your best shot. You guys are launching 1.5 million balloons into the sky, and you can't get those things 8 feet off the ground. We had here at this in Indianapolis, we had a facility that did balloon races in 1909. The Wonder Bread, if you buy a loaf of Wonder Bread has colored balloons on it because the inventor of Wonder Bread, the creator, the president of Wonder Bread, was at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, saw the balloon launch, thought it was beautiful, decided to use that as the logo for their bread company based in Indianapolis that became worldwide. So we have a history with balloons because we do it right. We don't launch 1.5 million of them into a river. But Danny had this to say about Indianapolis.
I think people would say that the only things here are a racetrack and Caitlin Clark.
Okay. Now, not a terrible take. And I understand it. What's interesting is this, Eddie. You made the most in the time. How long have we been doing this show? A year? Year and a half, 2 years?
Sure, yeah. You lose track of when you're having so much fun every day, Jake.
Well, thank you. Eddie Garrison came up with the most observant epiphany that he has ever made on this program as it relates to the Indianapolis Colts. And that quote. And we'll tell you what it is next.
We're going back to green flag racing. 190 of 200 laps will be complete this time by Danica Patrick going side by side with Weldon. She'll be the leader in turn number one.
My goodness, they're 3 wide, but Patrick's got the lead. Mira has jumped up to third. Danica Patrick out front of the 500.
Emberton, England's Dan Weldon. He's going to move to the inside of the Roscoe, Illinois native. They're side by side. Weldon will try to take the lead into one.
And he will get the job done. Weldon took down to the white line. Now Patrick's going to play catch-up. Right behind her, Vitor Mira.
For much of the late stages of this race, it has been the Dan and Danica show, but it will be Dan Weldon winning the 89th Indy 500 as an Englishman will roll into victory lane at the world's greatest race course for the first time in 4 decades.
That was in 2005, but of course, Dan Weldon would win one more time in 2011. And that was the start of Danica Mania when it came to the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Good afternoon to you, Jake Query, along with Eddie Garrison. We were just talking about the fact that when we asked Danny Cunningham to give us his best trash talk about the city of Indianapolis, he said it's a racetrack.
I think
with
people would say that the only things here are a racetrack and Caitlin Clark.
There you go. Right, which is it's actually a good line. Eddie, I will allow you to share with listeners the realization you had that really kind of escaped me, and then you said it, and I'm like, man, that's a really good point.
I said at the moment after we finished the conversation, I was like, that comment's very indicative of where the Colts are right now. I mean, for so long, they were at the top, at the forefront of when you thought about Indianapolis. It was the Colts. It was Peyton Manning. It was Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison, Edgerrin James, Andrew Luck, Tony Dungy.
You're right, man. I mean, I hate to say it, but from an NFL standpoint, the Colts have entered into, from a national perspective, that abyss, right? They are no longer on the forefront that somebody would think of. I get this time of year when we're asking him that question. You know, he's probably we led the witness a little bit maybe because we played a clip from the 500 and then mentioned, you know, May and the Pacers. And obviously he's here for a basketball purpose in May where you see a lot of that stuff. But so you do get probably a different answer if you're here in November for something. You know, it would be more on your mind, but nonetheless, pretty telling. Now, Kevin Bowen is out at the facility today, right? Because you've got the rookie mini camp taking place for the Colts.
Yeah, that's why he couldn't join the program today, and why we had him on yesterday is because of the Colts rookies' first day of rookie mini camp. Bunch of them signing their contracts earlier today.
Now they're going to be out. The rookies, I think, next week are going to be out at the Speedway. That's how you know obviously that they are all together. One of the things that came about, Tyler Warren has a new jersey number, right? He is going to be 84.
Oh, Jack Doyle-esque.
Mm-hmm. Well, he can't be 44, right?
That's right.
Although,
wait, you mean he's not going to pull out?
44 is not retired, but it's taken by Zaire Franklin, obviously.
Yeah,
I mean, he could have negotiated that.
You know, he's not going to be like Abdul Carter in New York and call up Lawrence Taylor and be like, "Hey, can I have your 56?"
Can you imagine the Pacers drafting somebody like, "Hey, listen, I wore 31 in high school. Can somebody get a hold of Reggie? I'm going to give you the jersey number of the Colts rookie class, and you tell me the Colt player historically that immediately comes to mind." You already mentioned for Warren, 84. You said Jack Doyle, right?
I just think that was the last person I can think of that wore that number.
I believe, and I'm going to try this again. It's been a while since I've tried it. Their second-round pick, okay? Tui Maloau.
Ooh, we're close.
Tui Maloau. I think that's right, isn't it?
We're close.
What are you going with?
2E.
Moloau.
Moloau. JT Tui Moloau.
What did I just say like 6 times?
You forgot the L.
No, I didn't. Tui Maloau, right? That's what I said, Tui Maloau. Play back what I said in the beginning, Tui Maloau. Either way, 91. Who do you think of? Wasn't Chucky Wakori 91?
I can't think of anybody who was born 91.
What was Chad Bratsky? I want to say, look up Colts to wear 91. I'm thinking Chucky Wakori and Chad Bratsky. I could be wrong on both. But now we know Tui Maloau. See, that's as easy as could be to say, Tui Maloau. Okay, 27.
Let's see. 91. Sheldon Day.
Okay.
He wore it. Jonathan Newsom. Yannick Ngakoue.
Jonathan Newsom he was out of Ball State and had a really good rookie year and then fell out. Oh, Unique Ngakoue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was
Hassan Ridgeway.
The one thing about Ngakoue, I'll say, unusual player. You know why?
Why is that?
Unique.
Oh, wow. You're so funny.
Tui Maloa, 91. Okay, 27. Who do you think of?
You're still wrong. Tui Moloau. Tui Moloau.
That's what I said.
No, it's not.
Tui Maloau.
You're forgetting the Mo. You're saying Tui. Say it again.
Tui Maloau.
No.
You're vapor locking what you're hearing. Tui Maloau.
There it is. That's right.
That's what I've said the whole time.
No, you're saying wow at the end. It's ow.
Tui Maloau.
There you go.
Somebody call in right now.
That one's right.
I've been saying it the whole time this way. Tui Maloau. You've been hearing it incorrect. I don't know what you're hearing. I've been saying Tui Maloau. Okay, 27. Who do you think of? Vaughn Hutchins, was he 27? That's the first name that comes to my mind.
Wasn't there a DB? Vontae Davis, did he wear 27? No. No, he didn't. He wore 21.
What number was Vaughn Hutchins? Look up Vaughn Hutchins. I'm pretty sure he might have been 27. Next is 75. I'm going to go Chris Hinton for 75. I'm fairly certain Chris Hinton was 75.
Yes. Vaughn Hutchins did wear.
Okay. DJ
27.
Gibbs is 21. That's easy. Bob Sanders, right? I mean, it's got to be Bob Sanders. There is no other. Naeem Hines might have worn 21, but 21 is Bob Sanders, right?
Yep.
Okay, 15. Leonard is 15. Flacco was 15, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was Jacoby Brissett 15?
Austin Collie was 17. Jacoby, Jacoby was like 7 or 9. One of those single.
Oh, you're right.
Numbers.
He might have. You're right. 15. I'll go with Flacco. Okay, 93. Easy. Freeney, right? For Smith.
Xavier Rhodes. That was the cornerback I was thinking of for 27.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Okay, Wohler wearing number 30. Has there been a prominent 30 for the Colts?
Was Vic Ballard 30 or 33?
Vic Ballard was a good player too. If he hadn't gotten hurt, 33 sounds right.
Yeah,
Dominic Rhodes was 33, right?
Yeah.
Tui Maloau. See, I'm telling you.
I think it's because you're not saying JT. That's why it's throwing me off.
Yeah, Tui Maloau. I've been saying it right the whole time. This from your only friend, Alec. He said it's Tui Maloau.
Yeah.
You're saying Tui Maloau. Yeah, exact same thing. Tui Maloau. I've been saying it right the whole time. Right? Jake, I've been hearing it right every single time you've said it. Yes. Bradsky was 92, by the way. I did not realize he was 92, was Chad Bradsky.
Tui Mololau.
Huh? Say that again.
Tui Mololau.
Say it one more time.
Tui Moloau.
Tui Maloau. It's the Tui Maloau, right? How did you say it?
Tui Mololau.
No, you're putting in two L's.
No, I'm saying Low-ow. O-W.
Understood, but Tui Maloau. Tui, T-U-I, Mo, M-O,
oh, goodness.
Lo, L-O, Ow, A-U.
We're like a married couple arguing right now.
Tui Maloau.
Dallas Flowers also wore 30. Philip Lindsay wore 30 for the Colts, yeah. George Odom. LaRon Landry.
That's a pretty lackluster list, if you don't mind me saying so.
LaRon Landry.
LaRon Landry. Now, that guy's cool because not only was he the most jacked human being ever, but he also, and I don't know.
Oh, Dominic Rhodes did wear 30 for the Colts once. 2010.
Somebody else is saying that it's Tui Malui. No. Tui Maloau. Telling you, I've been saying it right the whole time. Okay? I have been saying it right the whole time. The guy that's going to be doing the game tonight is going to join us on the program coming up, correct?
Yep, 20 minutes. Ryan Ruocco, ESPN. Also does a lot of the W games for ESPN as well. He's their primary number one, so he'll see a lot of Caitlin Clark this year as well.
That'll be 20 minutes from now. Now, wait a minute. We've been doing bounce backs of great 500 calls.
Yep.
We've been sitting here pronouncing Tui Maloau for the last 5 minutes. So you got Tui all over the place.
And
I'm thinking you're going to go with
Mo. That's what it is. You're saying JT2E Molau. It's JT2E Mo Loau. That's where
what
it
I
is.
said.
No,
Tui
you're saying
Maloau.
It's not Ma, it's Mo.
Tui Maloau.
There you go.
6 1/2 dozen the other. But considering that you have a number of things, Joseph Newgarden last year wins back-to-back. That's 2 races, right? 2E. You've got something like, Renus VK. I think his last name may have 2 E's in it. I'm not sure, but that would be 2E you could do.
Isn't it Rhinus?
That's right. You've got Allen's or 70 and 71. You could have played that. So I'm thinking that there's definitely going to be some sort of a tie-in to the number 2 in terms of a bounce back from a 500 win. And I said, let me guess, because you said you were going to try to stump me, and you played.
I never said I was going to try to stump you.
2000, 2001, 2002, 2003. And I said, well, you just played 05, so it's going to be 06. And then you say, oh, yeah, I forgot.
I didn't have one ready because I was too busy trying to prove myself correct on how to say JT2E Mololau.
What is the empty bag of watermelon candy sitting over there next to you? What's going on there? Do we know?
You're not supposed to say anything, Jake.
Do we know what's going on? Pacers Cavs tonight. It is game number 3, Gamebridge Fieldhouse, and a big one. Big one. I know John's going to be here in studio, and then he's going over to coaches to hang out before the game. And I think there's going to be a lot of people out, whether it be Prime 47, coaches, all the places downtown, all the haunts, to get up and get raring and get ready for the game. Because it's a big one. And, listen, the stakes there's a lot. And I don't mean the stakes at Prime 47, which are always fabulous. There's a lot on the line in the fact that when you look at it mathematically, as we talked about earlier, to get down 2-1, if you're Cleveland, you think, okay, we're still down 2-1, and we've got to get, still another one here in Indiana to get back to home court. But if you're the Pacers, you do not want them smelling any sort of opportunity to square things up. You just don't. And I worry if Indiana loses tonight, if the Pacers were to drop this game, I worry about what then I start doing the math and I start freaking myself out. The precedent would be, it just feels, and I hate to say it this way, but it just kind of feels like in these situations, teams respond. That teams come in here, and how many times have you seen it in playoffs where you think that some team is, their back's against the wall, and they come back and you go, well, there you go. And they woke them up now. If you're the Pacers, I think you just, and I know this is simplistic to say, but I think you simply put just have to get out there and get the 3-0 lead, and do not let Cleveland get and start to feel comfortable before getting healthy. Because if they all of a sudden, if it's 2-2 and now they're at 100%, all bets are off. Even 2-1, because of the math that I laid out there, all bets are off. My worry is that if you have a 2-1 series advantage and you find yourself down in the second half of Game 4, then your brain starts doing funny things to you. And you're like, man, if it's 2-2 now and everything we did, we take away all of our good work by getting the 2 in Cleveland, and everything shifts. No sense in dealing with that, man. Don't get caught up. Don't get swept up in it, right?
Hey, do you have any idea what you were doing on March 10th, Jake? Or March 8th?
I do.
What were you doing?
March 10th, I was hosting, thank you for asking, my 1 week till St. Patrick Day party. Do it every year.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
1 week left there.
Yeah. The countdown began. You ask why?
That was the last time the Pacers had lost back-to-back games.
Boy, that's something, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That was when they were on the road. Wasn't it like Atlanta and Chicago or something random?
Yep. They lost back-to-back games against Atlanta on the 6th and 8th, and then they lost on the 10th to the Bulls in Chicago.
And at that time, we probably were like, what is going on with the Pacers? Knock on wood.
I believe that was a stretch where Tyrese Halliburton was out.
Was he out or was he, there have been a couple of occasions this year. There have definitely been occasions this year where the Pacers and Halliburton went through stretches where we questioned if he was healthy for sure, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Where, it was just like, man, what's going on? He's wearing a back brace when he comes to the sidelines. He's just off. Clearly, two things about Halliburton. I don't know that you definitively say over the course of a game that the Pacers go as Halliburton goes, because there have been plenty of times where he has been off rhythm and other players have picked up that slack. Nembhard, Siakam, obviously. Mathurin has had a couple of those games. But there is no doubt that when they are at their best, he is in a passing rhythm of just – it is amazing because he's not with Halliburton, he does not come off by view as your typical, prototypical point guard of a fancy no-look pass or looking one way or the other, all of those things. He is more deceptive than that in the way that he drives somewhere and then he just, I don't know, he does a lot of the kind of the over-the-shoulder pass. I mean, some of his passes that he makes, my point being, are less crisp than a true Chris Paul-type point guard and more, at times, they look careless. And one of the things about Halliburton that has bothered me, if I'm nitpicking, is there are several times where if he goes to the basket and he has an open look, he hears the voices in his head or he sees the shadows. What do you say about a quarterback? Like quarterbacks see ghosts, right? There have been times where Halliburton will go in, if he's going in for like a layup, where he sees ghosts and he does a ball shimmy before laying it in that you're like, why are you putting an extra mustard on this? You have an open lane, just go to the basket. And he not only does that sometimes with layups, but he will occasionally get careless with the basketball in the backcourt. And just when I start to harp on that and get frustrated by it, he then eradicates that, has a game where he has like 13 assists and, a turnover. And clearly in the last possession of games, the guy has no conscience. And he is as good a clutch shooter and performer, at least right now, as there is in the league. And so you can get away with games where if for the course of the game he is off because he has this incredible ability at the end of the game to make up for that. But what worries me is when you start getting too comfortable with that and becoming reliant upon it because you are playing with fire. And that's why tonight, Eddie, I just think they need to go out, do the Pacers, and absolutely make it from the jump of that game. And listen, I'm wanting Gainbridge Fieldhouse. If you're going to the game, I mean, fever pitch. Don't get comfortable because it's 2-0 and it's listen. If they go up 3-0 and then on Sunday you're going to spend the day with mom or you're going to do whatever, then again, save yourself a little bit because you need it even more on Sunday. That place needs to be, that window needs to be rattled. That roof needs to be rocking. It needs to be so loud you can barely hear yourself think for the entirety and totality of the game. And in particular in the beginning, because the Pacers need to come out and they need to be like Rocky Balboa the second time against Apollo. They're coming right out of the corner and boom, right to the mouth. You can. I don't want Cleveland getting any glimpse of hope in any way, shape, or form because that's what worries me. Not worries me, but why bother with it? Why mess around with it?
Why are you worried, Jake, when I just laid out the fact they haven't lost back-to-back games? We would talk about it all Buck series.
Because they're going against a team that's won 64 games this year.
I understand, but that you should still have confidence in the Pacers to be able to bounce back and prevent a team from winning back-to-back games in your home.
I do, but I'm telling you, it's a different animal. I mean, the postseason is a different animal. You don't want to listen, I'm not selling Indiana short at all, and what they've done here is remarkable, and I'm all in. But I'm just speaking, if I'm speaking fan speak, I'm being cautious of it, and I'm saying, why mess with Yes, you have an opportunity to rest on the laurels of what you've done over the course of, like, the season. But why even mess with it? That's the way I'm looking at it. Why mess with it? Let's just go out there, punch it in the mouth, and let Cleveland know right away, look, just because the scene has shifted, just because the games are now in a different spot, just because there was a layoff here, it doesn't matter. It's no different. We're going for it. I'm hopeful. I'm just saying that I want to make sure that there's no doubt. The Cavs, if you're Cleveland and you're able to hang around a little bit, you start to feel good about yourself. And you start to think, okay, games 1 and 2 were an anomaly. We're banged up. We got everybody back now. We're getting everybody back. And yes, as of right now, and we'll ask Ryan here in a minute what he's hearing, but as of right now, it appears as though the big three for Cleveland, Garland, Mobley, and DeAndre Hunter. When I say the big three, I mean the three that have been out. It appears as though they are all still questionable. We don't have any more information on whether or not they go tonight. I think at least 2 of those 3 go. Hunter's the one that I would anticipate is going to be out longer because of the thumb. But the others, I would think, go. And so, therefore, I don't want Cleveland to have any reason to start to feel good about themselves. Were you a bully in high school, Eddie?
No.
Okay. You knew the bullies, right? The kids that wanted to make sure that other kids didn't feel good about themselves?
I would never do that.
I know, but you knew kids. Kids might have actually done that to you, right?
Perhaps.
They ever make fun of that melon?
Jake, come on. You know the answer to that question. I don't know why.
I'm just saying.
Where's the Captain Obvious sounder?
Sancio Grand Prix practice number 2 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Fastest. How about this? Little muscle being flexed by Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan Racing. Graham Rahal, the fastest, followed by Louis Foster, his teammate, and Devlin DiFrancesco. Then it is, let me see on the entire speed chart. I'm making sure that everybody got chances to go out there. I'm not out there, so I don't know if this was, if something, because this is an unusual speed chart.
You going from here to there after the show ends?
I am. Qualifying later today. Graham Rahal, Louis Foster, Devlin DiFrancesco, Stingray Robin, Connor Daly, your top 5 in speed. Followed by Alexander Rossi, Alex Palou, Kiffin Simpson, Nolan Siegel, and Callum Eilot. Will Power, 13th. Pata Award, 14th. Scott Dixon, 17th. Joseph Newgarden, 19th. Kyle Kirkwood, 22nd. David Malukas, 23rd. This is literally Scott McLaughlin, 25th. This is like an inverse of the speed charts from earlier. So I don't know if there was.
Did you invert it?
No, I did not invert it. But that's interesting, though. But qualifying later today. So I will be going straight from here over to the Speedway. And you have the qualifying for the Sancio Grand Prix. That's the IndyCar side of it. And then Indy next as well. Again, as I mentioned, it always takes adjustment for me as well to go to the Speedway and walk along the pit road and see them pulling out of the pit road and see them going in the opposite direction than what I'm used to. It throws me off every time, even though it is the road course is great. And I certainly understand why they do it. And especially, if you are going to, if you're going to go out there and have a road course that is F1 grade, then why not use it for your series? By the way, somebody, thank you for pointing it out. The top 6 in speeds there ran on the softer compound red tires. Everybody else went on black for the entire totality of the practice. That means those softer compound tires are tires that allow you to run at a faster speed. Did you get Ryan, Eddie?
Yes, sir.
All right, tonight, game number 3, the television call for the broadcast between the Pacers and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Ryan Ruocco will be on the call and joins us now on the program. Ryan, first off, let's get right to this. The health status for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Is there anything more than questionable that we can inform people about those 3 between Hunter, Mobley, and as well Garland?
Not that we've heard of yet. Just listening to some different people who covered the Cavs yesterday, it sounded like Hunter was the one who had made the most progress with the thumb, but that was kind of from their own conversations and whatnot. We have not been told anything yet. I'm sure we'll know a lot more once we get to the arena in a couple hours. But obviously, it looms so large over this series, especially because it's not one guy, it's three of your top six if you're Cleveland.
Now, let's just say this for the sake of the conversation, Ryan, okay? Let's say that all three are able to go. Indiana obviously did a great job of getting themselves into a 2-0 advantage here, and it took, every act of Congress to get that second win granted. But if Mitchell has been so good and so ball dominant for Cleveland, the Cavs alter what they're going to try to do, or Indiana needs to be prepared for alteration in what way, if notably Garland is ready to go?
Well, I think, this year, what we've seen throughout the entire year is Garland and Mitchell able to really help lift each other up. And they had tough conversations about that after last year and really wanted to work on how they could each be their best when on the floor together. And we saw that throughout the regular season, right? They're both all-stars, and, we saw Donovan have his field goal attempts drop way down, his minutes drop way down, and Donovan Mitchell was able to do that because of the way Darius Garland was playing. I mean, I think first and foremost, what you just see is the value of having another ball handler. Like, obviously someone with speed who can keep up with Indiana's pace, but just the ability to handle the basketball. You talk to any player, they will talk about one of the most underrated things when it comes to fatiguing you is having to handle the basketball and maneuver with it. And Donovan Mitchell, especially on drives and through traffic, and Donovan Mitchell was doing that over and over and over again. And then I think we saw, and Kenny Atkinson didn't single out Donovan Mitchell, but he did say, just in general, that his team got fatigued at the end and couldn't separate. And I think we saw that with Donovan specifically, when you look at, even his offensive foul in those final minutes of game 2. So I just think first and foremost for Cleveland, having another ball handler would really open things up. Also, if Donovan is battling a little bit of a calf issue, we've seen the elevation at the rim. Everybody has seen the elevation at the rim, but we have not seen it on his shot, right? And I think that would also help him as far as just keeping his stamina, keeping his legs under him on his shot from 3, where he's just 2 of 18 in the series. So getting Garland back would be enormous. I would say this, though, the one caveat to that is what version of Darius Garland are you getting? Because he's someone who Indiana may have already been looking to target on the defensive end. And if he's, hobbled somewhat, then he could be targeted even more there.
What ways might Indiana look different tonight, Ryan, in terms of, is there, you've watched them over the course of the season. You've talked to Rick Carlisle in preparation for this broadcast tonight. Ryan Ruocco, our guest, going to be on the microphone for ESPN tonight with this matchup. In what tweaks can the Pacers make to counter or look different than what they have done in games 1 and 2?
Yeah, we'll probably have a little better feel of it after we talk with Rick coming up in about 3 hours at the arena. But just from talking to him previously in these playoffs and watching Indiana, I think, one thing that I'm sure they're going to be prepared for is the way Cleveland was able to keep Tyrese Halliburton from being that premier playmaker in game 2, right? And if it wasn't for the way he finished that game, you would have looked at that game 2 and said, wow, Cleveland did a fantastic job of keeping Tyrese in check, both in his playmaking and in his scoring. And so I think Indiana probably will be prepared for what a lot of teams try and do, right? And they try and make Tyrese one-dimensional, and they try and make him a scorer more than a facilitator, because when he gets everybody involved, we know the way that fuels Indiana's entire offense. And in these playoffs in particular, and you guys have seen the numbers, it's just ridiculous how well Indiana's shooting off of Tyrese's passes. Like, just absurd, in the mid-60s from the floor off of his passes. So I'm sure Indiana is going to be prepared to have Tyrese take advantage of being more of a scorer if he has to be. And then I think, guys, it's doing a lot more of the same. I mean, I think we've seen what Kenny Atkinson termed excessive physicality, but just the fervent physicality of Indiana. I think we've seen it really disrupt Cleveland. And if they are down a body or two, I think there's even more of an emphasis to play with that kind of verve because as we saw at the end of the game, the effect that it had on Cleveland. And otherwise, if you're Indiana, I think you just want to keep playing the way you've been playing for the most part in these playoffs. They have been so impressive through the first 7 games of these playoffs. Offensively, they're shooting over 50% as a team, 41% from 3, almost 30 assists a game. And I think people forget, too, what a good defensive team they've been since January 1st. So I think more than anything else, it's much of the same for Indiana.
Is there, I guess I'll ask it this way, which player is the rest of the country more surprised right now to realize how truly good they are? Tyrese Halliburton or Aaron Nesmith?
I think Aaron Nesmith because Tyrese Halliburton, I do believe everybody knows just how good he is. I know that, bogus athletic poll has followed him around a little bit in these playoffs, but I really don't believe that the vast majority of people look at him and think he's overrated. I think everybody understands his excellence, his greatness. I think people got a real feel for that last year with what the Pacers were able to do, both first in the in-season tournament and then obviously in the run to the conference finals. And so, I think people are probably surprised by just how ridiculously good he's been in the clutch in these moments, because I think you'd be surprised by anybody, who had been as consistent as he's been in those big moments, 8 consecutive game-tying or go-ahead made shots in the final 2 minutes of the fourth quarter and overtime between the regular season and playoffs. I mean, that's an astonishing number and astonishing accuracy. I don't know that people fully realize what Aaron Nesmith was capable of. I mean, in this series, he's averaging 20 points a game on 62% shooting. He's 9 for 14 from 3. In the playoffs, he's 16 points a game, 56% from the floor, 56% from 3. I think people have kind of looked at him as like, he's a solid 3-and-D guy to fill in around some of the names they know more, a Halliburton, a Siakam, even a Miles Turner. Aaron Nesmith is playing like an absolute star in his role, and I am sure just how good he is has surprised people in a delightful way.
Ryan, here's what Aaron Nesmith reminds me of, okay? Now, you work, obviously, in, play-by-play, both for, in a wide array of areas, right? WNBA, you're very familiar with Caitlin Clark. We've talked about that, the NBA. But we all have at some point worked in an office-type setting. And in an office-type setting, there's a guy or gal that I always call the copy guy. And what that means is there's 9 people in the building sitting around and the copier's broken and nobody can figure it out. And there's the copy guy is always the guy that somebody goes, find Scotty. He knows how to fix everything. And Scotty comes down and he knows where everybody's buried. He knows where everything is, and he helps everybody in the office, and he's invaluable. That's what Aaron Nesmith is, because it's not necessarily even the scoring aspect of it. It's the little loose ball that you later find out jump-started a drive. It's the defensive switch to come over where somebody else missed an assignment, and he's the last-minute protection. And it seems like it's been in the last 6 months this has all come together. But, Ryan, I think that's the most important guy to have on the floor, quite truthfully.
Well, first of all, I just love your analogy. That was terrific. In my life, that's my brother-in-law, Josh. Something's wrong, go Josh.
Totally,
he'll get it done.
Yeah, Josh is the guy your parents can't figure out their computer. Call Josh. He goes over there, right?
Yeah. Exactly. He's got it. I think, but I think it's a wonderful point, and I think it also speaks to something that's true for Aaron Nesmith, but also just true for the construction of Indiana, and that is how well their pieces mesh. How thoughtful this roster is. And I think what we have seen in the NBA playoffs over the last few years is you cannot just have the star name talent at the top of your roster and then, we'll figure out how we fill in the rest. That does not work anymore in these playoffs. We've seen it time and time again, whether it's a team like Phoenix, right? Or you can look at a team like the Lakers. Like there needs to be the right pieces and the right construction, and you have got to be able to feel comfortable enough with those players on both ends of the floor. And even though Boston obviously has top end stardom, what has made them so good, what made them win a championship last year, it's that they had those pieces that fit beautifully together up and down the roster and two-way players. Look at Denver's championship team from a couple years ago. Obviously, Jokic is the best player in the world, but then, and Murray's a star, but then the way, Contavious Caldwell-Pope kind of doing the Neesmith role for that team, right? And I thought, somebody asked me the other day, guys, well, what stood out to me most about the comeback? And you know what it was? It was the physicality and intensity of Aaron Neesmith. The way he was down in a stance on those inbounds, the way he was hounding Cleveland 94 feet, and the intent that you saw with him, not just in the final minute, but in that fourth quarter, I almost felt like you could feel the belief through Aaron Neesmith that the entire team was riding. And I think that it speaks to, how impactful Neesmith is, and then also just how beautifully this roster has been constructed.
Ryan Ruocco, our guest from ESPN. Ryan, does the winner tonight win the series?
Whew, that's a great question. Not necessarily. I mean, look, if Indiana wins, yes, definitely. I don't think if Cleveland wins that they will definitely win the series. I think they'll be well positioned to, but I wouldn't say it's a done deal. I think for Cleveland to win this series, they are going to have to get healthy, because one piece of the equation that people have continually underrated, I think, looking ahead to these Eastern Conference playoffs and then in the playoffs, is just how good Indiana is. And, they've been one of the best teams in the NBA over the final, 3 months of the regular season. We see the way they just absolutely tore up Milwaukee, how good they've looked, game one, and then at the end of game two in this series. I think that Cleveland is going to have to get Mobley, Garland, as well as Hunter, all back, looking like some reasonable facsimile of themselves in order to be able to beat this Pacers team, especially when facing a 2-0 hole.
Now, lastly, we're going to see plenty of you, I would imagine, once especially the WNBA season gets going here, because plenty of Caitlin Clark love from the network.
Yes, no doubt you will. I was actually at Fever practice earlier today, and you will see plenty of me. I'll have the opener on ABC next Saturday, 3 Eastern, for everyone to tune into, against Chicago. It'll be New York, Vegas before that game on ABC. Good doubleheader to start the season. And, yeah, man, you'll see me a ton. I mean, chronicling and documenting Caitlin's greatness and Fever basketball, it's a super fun thing to do because of the way they play, right? They just play with a beautiful pizzazz. And you saw it even in a preseason game last week when we were in Iowa against Brazil. Obviously, that wasn't a very good version of the Brazilian national team. But the way Indiana played was just beautiful. And I think this Fever team, the moves they made, Amber Cox, their GM, this offseason, I think they should feel really good about the mix of talent, veterans, youth that they have right now, and the possibility that they could end up playing in the finals this year.
Ryan, we always appreciate the time. Enjoy your stay in Indianapolis. I have a text here from Josh. Hey, Jake, let Ryan know that I fixed the desk the last time. He can find somebody else to do it. Okay. Josh is over it, Ryan. You went to the well one too many times, man. Quit shopping at IKEA.
Hey, you know what? I can't. He's made enough trips to my house. I understand why.
That's right. Ryan, we appreciate it. All right, we'll be listening tonight and watching the call.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Have fun.
Appreciate it. Ryan Ruocco joining us from ESPN. Game 3 tonight between the Pacers and the Cavs. It is a Friday, bottom of the hour. You know what that means. It means we're a little late getting to it, but there is never a time that is too late to give good news. And we're going to talk about a new initiative to help out girls when it comes to sports in Central Indiana. We'll do it next.
Open the door to the three-time Winners Club. There's a brand new member, and his name is Elio Castroneves. The fist raised in the air, the twin checkered flags. Elio wins it. Weldon is second. Danica Patrick is third.
Hard to believe that has been 16 years ago. Elio Castroneves winning number 3 of 4 back in 2009 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Jake Query, Eddie Garrison. It is a Friday. You know what that means. It is time for a Franciscan Health Feel Good, Good for the Heart Friday, the number 1 heart program in Indiana for cardiology by Health Grades, number 1 in Indiana for interventional coronary care and major cardiac surgery by CareChex. Franciscan has the affordable, very non-invasive, easy-to-do heart scans. And listen, it means the world to me when people come up to me to tell me that based on what they've heard us talking about, that they've gone out and they've gotten a heart scan and they've taken the first step towards cardiovascular health, because it is so important. We talked about it last week. Even if you have a clean family bill of health, you know, you may not know about the fact that genetically speaking, there could be something there that's underlying and you feel healthy. It was the case with me. I ran, I think, 24 miles the week before I had a heart attack, but genetically speaking, that box was checked for me. Those are the kinds of things you can find out by being proactive about your cardiovascular health care, and no better place to do it than Franciscan. Just $49. $49 for a heart scan. You can't afford not to do it. It can be life-saving. Find out more information at franciscanhealth.org/screening bundles. The month of May, I always say, is all about family. Family environment of the traditions of the Indianapolis 500, family environment of getting together with a family to watch Pacer games or be outdoors. And football, obviously, from a perspective of watching it, is a family sport because you get the whole family that goes out to a Colts game or watches. But in addition to that, now there's an opportunity for everybody in the family to be able to participate because the IHSAA and the Indianapolis Colts have worked together, so to speak, although the Colts are a big part of this. And I'm talking about flag football and flag football for girls. Andy Matus is the senior manager of football development for the Indianapolis Colts, joins us now in the program to talk about exactly that. Andy, I'm going to read you a headline, and then I want you to expand for our listeners on the headline, okay? The headline says, Colts applaud IHSAA for approving girls flag football as, quote, emerging sport. Take me through why you guys are applauding this and are excited.
Yes, absolutely. So this really started about 4 years ago in our building with an idea of pushing this toward a varsity sanctioned sport and creating more opportunities for girls to play the sport of flag football. We started with a jamboree in 2022 at Lucas Oil Stadium with 4 school districts across the state coming out to the stadium, over 100 girls, just to see how much interest we had, and we had a ton. And we're able to build off that and create our own pilot league in the fall of 2023 with 8 schools, 5 in Indianapolis, 3 in South Bend, continuing to offer camps and clinics to garner interest, and then had 27 schools participating in a 3-week regular season this past fall. It takes over 20 schools participating to be up for a vote by the IHSAA as an emerging sport, and they've been extremely supportive of this initiative the entirety of the way, helping us build rules, et cetera. But now that we are an emerging sport, it comes under governance from the IHSAA and gives another sense of validity to the sport and gets us one step closer to this becoming a sanctioned varsity sport and having a postseason and a eventual state champion.
So at this time, Andy, how many schools have committed to say, and I know you kind of went over this, but in terms of right now in 25, the number of schools that have said, yes, we will, facilitate for our girls to be able to participate in this sport stands where, and you envision it, let's say by 27 or so, to be where?
So we're at 70 today. We just received 3 new commitments, and our first commitments from the Evansville area with Castle and Wrights Memorial committing to the fall of 2025. By 2027, the hope would be to be well over 100 schools and be up for that sanctioning vote by then, especially with this being in the 2028 Olympics as well.
Now, I know that the Colts, invested $1 million into the Road 100, so to launch all of this and get it all going, right, and get all of the information out there and I'll use the word recruiting, for lack of a better phrase, in terms of schools. Just making awareness, I guess, was the big thing. Andy, does this sort of thing, is this in existence in other states? Is there a blueprint for this, or is this really kind of a new frontier, if you will?
It is in other states. So 15 states have sanctioned it now as a varsity sport. And I'm sure you saw the spot during the Super Bowl with the NFL's push to get this as a sanctioned sport in all 50 states. So it's certainly continuing to grow state by state. But in terms of a blueprint, every state is structured differently. State associations have different bylaws where Mississippi was one of the most recent states to be sanctioned with 12 schools playing, where in our state we need well over 100 schools participating to be up for that vote. So it's not apples to apples per state, and where we're at now is we've been building each rule state by state, all the rule books, but now the NFHS will come out with their governing set of rules here in the next couple weeks, which will be a huge milestone for the sport.
When you look at girls flag football, Andy Matus is our guest from the Colts talking about the girls flag football initiative. Is this the kind of thing that could become, like a unified sport that we see, which oftentimes takes, student athletes and then partners them with students that might have a disability? Seems like this would be a sport that would be good for that. And then in addition to that, could we also see boys flag football at some point?
Yes, and I think what we've seen, which has been really encouraging to see at some of our bigger schools, is one of the hesitancies with some of the athletic directors with schools that do offer unified is, would we pull any partner athletes away from the unified game over to the girls flag game? And what we're seeing is at some of your 5A, 6A schools, you have north of 100 girls coming out for tryouts for just 25 spots. So their unified teams have actually grown because of some of those girls who can't make their girls flag team now going over to the unified flag. So girls certainly will not replace unified flag, but I anticipate it helping to continue to grow that with more schools adopting it as well. And with boys flag, I don't know where that landscape ultimately goes. I think that's more 5 to 10 years down the line. Now, what I will say you're seeing is more youth league offerings up until 8th grade for flag football for both boys and girls, where typically flag has been offered up until that 2nd grade as a transition to tackle from 3rd grade on, depending on what youth league you're looking at. But now you're having more kids opt to continue to play flag up until that 7th, 8th grade level.
Andy Matus is the Senior Manager of Football Development for the Indianapolis Colts. More information if you are interested in your school getting involved in this, or perhaps just simply want to get more information about where your daughter might be able to play and participate. Colts.com/girlsflag is the website. That's Colts.com/girlsflag. On very short notice, Andy, with this information coming out and it continuing to grow, I really appreciate you squeezing in a couple minutes to join us today. Have a good weekend, all right, man?
You too. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Again, Andy Matus joining us from the Indianapolis Colts. The other bit of good news for today, I mentioned it earlier, but I'm going to mention it again. Could not be more proud of my high school classmate, Mario Garcia. Proud to say that that I know Mario, because just a solid guy all the way around. But the fact that he is at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway today serving to swear in not 33 as is customary, but 34 new citizens to the United States who today will become U.S. citizens and go through that ceremony at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It took place earlier today out at IMS. That is always an annual tradition for which we all should be proud and tip the cap to those 34 individuals that are now citizens of the United States. John's in. We will hand it off to him next. We'll get you set up again, continuing for game number 3, Pacers-Cavs. We'll do it next.
Still Ward, then Rathman, and they're fast approaching some other cars. Sid, pick it up.
Yes, Eddie Johnson, Paul Goldsmith, and number 17, Carter, right in front of them here. And as they come down, it's Rathman ahead of Ward by a fair margin. Looks like about 65 feet right now.
All right, Jim Rathman just kind of taking it easy here. Boy, I don't know what happened. Roger Ward is really biting fingernails if he could. And here he comes now. Gee, he's dropping back considerably. Okay.
Here's the checkered flag for Jim Rathman, the winner of the 44th annual 500-mile race.
How do you feel after that most spectacular finish?
Pretty good. What happened to Ward?
He ran out of gas. You and Roger really put on a spectacular finish today.
Thank you.
What were you thinking about the last 5 laps, Jim?
I was thinking that Roger Ward had a little more steam than what I did, and I figured it was all lost. My right front tire was down to the cord, and I didn't know what to do. I just figured Roger had a little more horsepower than I did, and every time he wanted to, he could pass me.
The 1960 duel, Jim Rathman, Eddie Sachs, one of my favorite clips in IMS radio history, when he asks what happened to Eddie Sachs, and you hear the guy in the background, "He ran out of gas." Love that clip. That was one of the real showdowns from the olden days, if you will.
He ran out of gas.
like for example, you know what happens to me around May 18th or so?
He ran out of gas.
That's right. When I used to do the morning show, you know what happened on the regular, by the way?
He ran out of gas.
That's correct. Love it. Absolutely love it. All right, so tonight, Pacers-Cavs, game number 3. I remember saying before game 2 that my concern was that the roof was going to cave in, so to speak, and the Cavalanche, as you called it, Eddie, would come. And I worry a little bit about that for game 3 tonight, that because their back is kind of against the wall, that Cleveland comes out and just says, man, we've got to have an answer here. And the Pacers, are, being at home and the energy of the crowd and everything else seemingly are in good shape, but they got to be able to withstand that storm in the beginning. Absolutely have to be able to weather that storm in the beginning. And the crowd needs to be as loud as can be, as loud as possible, and fired up and just send the message to Cleveland and punch them in the mouth immediately. J&B just walked in.
Hey, why not Indiana? This for me, from the shop.
That is.
Broad Ripple and Carmel. I dig it. Thank you very much.
That is. Why not Indiana, right?
Why not? It sure as hell looks better than this shirt I have on right here, I can tell you that.
That's actually not a bad shirt. What do you think, John? Does the winner tonight win the series?
There's no doubt about it. Oh, well, no. I don't think the Pacers would be out of it if they lose tonight, but everybody would be down in the dumps because you got to go back to the dump. So that would suck. But obviously, if the Pacers do, you think they're done if they lose tonight, the Pacers?
I don't think they're done by any stretch, but it puts their back against the wall in game 4.
Right.
You don't want to go back there 2-2, right? So
no,
I say you just go ahead and punch them in the mouth and get it over with.
Well,
right?
and even with Sergeant Holka and the 2 other dudes that evidently are going to return later on tonight.
It's looking that way. I mean, they're listed right now as questionable last I saw, unless there's been a development since then. But
the big toe. Let me ask you a downtown question really quick. Is that okay?
Yep.
What is the most common song played when you're walking around downtown by the street saxophonists, plural?
Okay, excellent question.
Thank you.
Saints Go Marching In?
No. Anybody got a guess over there, Eddie?
Back Home Again?
It is a classic theme song to a classic sitcom.
Okay, hold on. Boy, I've got it.
You got it. You got it. Every time.
What decade?
You're going to walk downtown tonight to go to the game, and there's going to be a street saxophonist playing Sanford and Son.
Yeah.
Every single time. I love it, too. Every single time.
I hear Saints Go Marching In a lot, but Sanford and Son for sure, yeah. The best theme song of the 70s, though, what's your favorite?
Well, Sanford and Son's right up there. Well, that'd be great. I love all the crime dramas. Streets of San Francisco, Barnaby Jones, a Quinn Martin production. Rockford Files is great.
Rockford Files pretty hard to beat. I'm a big fan of the theme song for Welcome Back, Kotter.
Yeah,
I was
right there with you. How about Quincy?
Quincy's
How about
good.
the intro to Quincy? This old man with really bad teeth is like hanging out on a boat with this really young hot chick in a bikini, and he looks like he's dressed for the mountains. Quincy. Can you imagine Jack Klugman in real life was married to whom?
I don't know that.
Brett Summers.
That's
some
quality work there.
Match Game. Brett Summers.
Who did I see?
Hey,
just,
Jack. Hey,
hold on.
Quincy.
Somebody just passed away that was on Match Game all the time. One of those, who was it? Darn it. One of the actresses just died that was on.
Joyce Boulafont? No.
Hold on.
I don't know.
This is going to drive me nuts. Was on, I'll have to text it to you. Match Game. And
Joanne Flug?
They had like 12 actors and actresses from that era.
Fanny
that were
Flagg.
Match Game and like not Whose Line Is It, but Hollywood Squares and all those shows, right? They had the same group that constantly were running around.
Ruth Buzzy.
That's
Buzzy.
It. That's it.
Yeah,
That's exactly who it was.
Ruth Buzzy. She not a part? She and Artie Johnson had the characters. I think they came from Laugh-In, right? And remember, there was a cartoon called Baggy Pants and the Nitwits on NBC in the late 70s.
I still think that Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was rigged when the guy won $1 million because I'm like, how could the $1 million question be what president was on Laugh-In?
Yeah, I'm telling you. We can lob that right in there. So,
right,
why not Indiana?
I got to buzz
T-shirt.
you over to IMS, John. Enjoy the broadcast, and everybody be loud
Did
tonight.
people wreck today? Did we have a wreck that I miss?
Not that I'm aware.
Okay.
Not to say they didn't. I wasn't over there, obviously. So I'm not,
Gotcha.
Not to say they didn't.
All right, man. Enjoy.
We'll see what happens. All right, we'll see you, John.